Got a great episode coming for you today. A lot of fun, but first I would like to announce the table has its first supporter, liverishi.com. CBD products. I've been using the Rishi Rub now for going on probably 4 years. And as people know me or you have been listening to this for a while, you know I get after it with physical activities and been using that to relieve aches and pains on joints and muscles. And I can't say enough good about it. Then a couple years ago, he stepped it up with some CBD oil product. And wow, this is not your drugstore, convenience store, head shop type CBD product. Straight up, no white labeling. These guys take no shortcuts putting this stuff together. They have a third party that tests it to make sure that purity and potency is there, and you can't go wrong. I can't say enough good about it. Go to liverishi.com, put in table to let them know I sent you, and they'll get hooked up. So let's move on to the program. My next guest. By trade, he's an architect. He's got all sorts of crazy things going on. Welcome to the table, where I feature captivating stories from fascinating people. Kraig, just to hit on a few things, custom playing cards, other people's memories. That is super cool. Of course, we talk about movies, and he's opening a restaurant. Great concept. And he brought up or introduced me to a phrase and a lifestyle that I didn't know about till then. Digital nomad. Let's get to it. There we go. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yoo-hoo. No, the reason it's on just SoundCloud right now is I'm a big guy of when I find a podcast I like,
right,
there better be like 20 episodes, man, so I can binge listen to it.
For sure.
So being on SoundCloud, it's almost like a dry opening,
sure,
like a cold opening.
So you're building up a backlog, and then when you go live to the other,
platforms
you'll drop like 20 episodes.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that's the whole idea behind it. And
sweet.
So if you read some of the stuff, this is totally unedited. So we'll hear all the clicks and pops. You'll hear my wife talking in the background. The cat will come by. All sorts of shit. So. But before we started recording, you were talking about Philly, huh? You down there?
Yeah, so I was in Philly, and there's a guy down there named Andrew Benioff who runs a group called Lenrock, and he runs a conference called the Independent Lodging Congress. Mm-hmm. And I got involved with the Independent Lodging Congress. It's basically for developers and people who want to do non-branded projects. So there's all the big hotel and restaurant brands like Marriott, Hilton, Hyatt. So if you want to do a hotel that's not in one of those brands, you're essentially running an independent hotel, what's called a boutique hotel,
right.
Or a lifestyle hotel. And what the brand started doing a few years ago is that, these non-branded hotels became so popular, and, they wanted to give people in their rewards networks the access to those. They started buying up independent hotels and putting them in what's called a soft brand. So if you hear the phrase soft brand, it means that you might go to a hotel called, the Dylan, but it's actually part of like a Marriott Autograph collection or Hilton Curio collection. And so it's basically like a non-branded hotel that's part of a brand, so that anybody who's on like Marriott Rewards points or Hilton Honors can have access to kind of cooler hotels when they're traveling personally. Because most of the kind of road warrior business travelers, they're staying at conventional hotels when they're traveling for business. They're staying at Courtyards and Hiltons and DoubleTrees. But then when they want to earn those points and then go on vacation with their family, they don't want to stay at a Courtyard. They want to stay at kind of independent boutique style hotel.
Right, a little nicer.
Yeah. So Andrew runs a conference called the Independent Lodging Congress, and what he's really doing is promoting the idea that hospitality as an industry is not simply just staying at a hotel. It's all of the other cultural and lifestyle things that happen through the hotel. So there's hotels that are doing co-working. There's hotels that are doing, chef's demonstrations. There's hotels that are doing, there's hotel companies that are doing co-living now, which is you buy a membership in an organization that has apartments all over the world. And so you pay a monthly membership and you can stay in any one of their apartments all over the world.
It's like an Airbnb, but on a higher level.
Exactly. Yeah, there's this new category of, people called digital nomads. So like, let's say, for example, you're a writer and you can work from anywhere in the world. So why not have a membership to a co-living company and just basically travel
Bounce
the world?
around.
Yeah. And there's even companies that are set up to facilitate workspaces and live spaces all over the world. So I'm sure you've heard of WeWork. WeWork has a concept called We Live, where they actually build not just workspaces, but living spaces. So you can go to cities and you can stay in a We Live while you work at a WeWork. And then, they're basically getting both ends of the transaction. So what we're seeing now in hospitality is there's not just these simple open a hotel, give somebody a bed to sleep for a night. There's food concepts, there's living concepts, there's lodging concepts. And so what Andrew does is he invites all of these people and these kind of innovative thinkers in to understand what everybody's doing. And then he fosters the dialogue between different people. And so we're doing some development, in different markets. And so we're talking to Andrew about, kind of working with us, coming on board, and so that's kind of where we went. So,
the reason you got hooked up with him because, we got to give you context.
So I'm an architect and designer and developer, and I've been going to his conference probably now for 6 years, which the conference started in Philly and then expanded into New York. This year it's going to be in LA. I've spoken at the conference before. I'm actually speaking again this year at this one in LA in October.
Nice.
And so, he just brings different people from all parts of the industry together to exchange ideas and create a dialogue. And that's how I got involved with it. But really my passion is for creating things, making things, all things design. Whether we're designing a piece of furniture or a building or a house or what have you, or a deck of cards. I own a company that sells retail stuff.
I was going to ask you about the cards
Pocono
and
Modern.
the movie clips.
Right? The old vintage photographs.
Yeah, we got to get into that.
So my interest has always just been in creating things, and I try to do as much as I can. And make things interesting because you can get so distracted nowadays with whatever, Netflix or Facebook or Instagram, and I try to stay off social media a little bit, and I just try to focus my energy onto making stuff. So that's kind of what I do.
Nice. And so go back to the We Live concept. That is actually fucking really cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Airbnb, when they came out, they started in 2008. And I don't know if you know how Airbnb got started, but there was a big tech conference in San Francisco. And these two guys who were living in an apartment, they were their rent had just gone up. They were struggling to make rent. And, they didn't know what to do. They didn't have jobs, but they knew that this tech conference was coming to town. And they got this idea, like they would rent an air mattress in their apartment and charge money, because there wasn't enough hotel rooms in San Francisco for this conference. I think they had like 2 or 3 people stay in their apartment on air mattresses. And what they discovered was they weren't just like renting space to these people, but they were actually like hanging out with them, talking to them, becoming their friend, showing them the city. Sure. And so, originally I think the company was called like Air Bed and Breakfast or something, or Air Mattress Bed and Breakfast.
Yeah, sure.
And then, they got this idea like, hey, we had these strong connections. We made these friends through this process. Maybe other people would like to do this, basically be hosts. And so it was really around the concept of hosting people in your place. And that's kind of, it sounds strange now because it's so common for us to just think of Airbnb as like renting somebody's house. But at the time, it wasn't really a common thing. There was trust issues and like security issues and things like that.
You ever see that movie, speaking of Netflix, you ever see that movie 13 Cameras?
Yeah.
Holy shit, dude. You'll totally think different of Airbnbs. You watch that fucking movie.
So it wasn't so anyway, but what they did was they created a digital platform for people to, basically negotiate that transaction. And then people started just accepting the fact that they could find somewhere to stay or somewhere to live that wasn't a hotel, that wasn't that expensive. You know, you can go to the most beautiful places in the world and spend like $75 a night to stay.
Right.
You know, I was in Milan a couple years ago, and I was like, let me just see what the Airbnb rates are going. And like, you could stay around the Duomo in Milan for like $79 a night in a cool little flat.
Yeah.
You know,
and you get a lot of culture with that too.
Yeah, for sure. Plus, you're also in somebody's home. It's more personal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, oftentimes they'll give you, you know, a guide to the city, or if you know, or you could ask questions like, hey, where should I go for breakfast? And they'll give you that kind of locals, you know, opinion of what you should do. And that idea, you know, because anytime any idea gains traction, especially with tech, the way that tech investors and tech creators think, they're saying, okay, well, this is successful. What's the next iteration of this? What's the spin-off of this? So, you know, this idea of people love to travel and use Airbnb, but, you know, there's like, oh, what are the downsides of Airbnb? Well, there's inconsistency. So, you know, you're going to get something different in every place. And, you know.
Yeah, but that's kind of the draw, though, in a way, for most people.
For some people, sure. But, like, when you check in at a house that doesn't have Wi-Fi, you know, that could be a downer. Or you check in at a house that, like, oh, the bathroom isn't clean. And you're like, oh, I don't want to take a shower here.
Yeah.
You know, so that happens.
in hotels like that.
Oh, for sure. But, so, you know, these smart people said, well, why don't we build... you know, so now these developers started thinking like, well, why don't we build an entire apartment building of Airbnbs, right, in a hot neighborhood? And so it's kind of not a hotel, but it kind of is a hotel.
It would be like my apartment building right
for
here.
sure. And then, you know, obviously a lot of the cities got wise to that, and they said, okay, well, if you're going to run a hotel, we're going to charge you lodging taxes. Sure. You know, when Airbnb started, much like Amazon, you know, you could get away with not paying taxes on stuff, and people were ordering stuff on Amazon because like, oh, it's coming from out of state. I'm not getting paid sales tax. Yeah. But now, you know, everything's so regulated that, you know, the taxes have caught up. So now what they're doing is they're saying, okay, we're going to build this building and we're going to sell memberships, which are not essentially like staying this place this night, but like, you know, basically it's a private club, and in order to get in the building, in the club, you got to have a membership. And so, you know, I think it helps them address some of those challenges with, you know, with the lodging taxes and so forth. You know, but
they'll get aware around that for only a short period of time.
Sure.
They'll figure that out.
Sure, but also, you know, if you think of like MTV's The Real World, when you got all these people living in these cool houses, there's also a little bit of that, because when you have a developer building a place like that, they can make it super cool and much nicer than any individual homeowner can, or any, you know, they're putting the Sub-Zero fridge and the Viking ranges and the big open spaces. So some of these places have really cool design, and you know, and it's really attractive to a younger demographic who wants to, you know, be one of these digital nomads or travel. Even hostels. I don't know if you know, when I was growing up, a hostel was like kind of a dirty, dingy place where you slept with your backpack on, and you know, you're sleeping next to, you know, 4 feet away from somebody. But it was cheap, and if you wanted to backpack through Europe, you could stay at hostels super cheap. Now there's hostel companies that really aren't hostels. Like the only thing is like you might share a bathroom or share a bunk bed with somebody, but these are pretty much just high density hotels. There's a couple of these. There's a couple in New York called like Citizen M, which are these micro hotels.
Yep, I did.
And then there's this company called Generator. That designs these really cool hostels. You know, they call them hostels, but they're really kind of hotels. But you know, it's just like, you know, we absolutely live in a sharing economy, and you know, especially younger people are more comfortable co-whatever with somebody, co-living, co-driving. You know, even websites where you can, you know, borrow things you need, you know? So it's like if you need a chainsaw and you don't want to go buy one, you could go and say, hey, anybody got a chainsaw? I'll lend you a chainsaw. And, you know, so this idea of the sharing economy, we're using unutilized things. You know, there's even a company that you know, sells unused meeting spaces. There's a company called Breather, for example. I don't know if you've heard of them. Breather. But if you want to have a meeting in, let's say, New York City, right, and you don't have a conference room available, Breather finds unused meeting spaces in the city and then makes them available to anybody with different rates. So you could rent, you know, a meeting room for 4 hours in New York City for, you know, $150 or $200.
Is it like you go on the website or you call somebody and say, hey, I want to, I have 10 people. I need this size space, and I want to be able to.
Yeah, you do
have
it all
food
through the
delivered,
website. You
food
do it all
delivered and all that. And
exactly,
click, and
exactly.
drop down boxes.
For
and
sure.
Boom. No
Yep.
shit.
Yeah, it's all through the website. And so what happens is similar to how hotels put excess inventory or airlines put excess seats on these different online travel agencies. They essentially have relationships with these places, and the places, when they have, a room that's not being used, they put the inventory online and people book it, and Breather collects a fee and so on. And
now, do you think that because of the way business is being run now and the way things are changing, those meeting rooms are opening up because more people are working from home or remotely, so spaces are opening up? They don't have as much or as need for office space as they did years ago?
I think offices are getting smaller, but I still think that there's a need for office spaces because you have a percentage of the population that wants to work remotely a percentage of the time.
Right.
So, a lot of companies I know have changed their policies where they might say, well, you can work from home 1 or 2 days a week. And as a result, we're not going to build you an office that's going to sit vacant 40% of the time. What we'll do is we'll have a bunch of what they call hoteling workstations where when you come into the office, you don't have necessarily a dedicated desk. You can pop around.
Right.
But you might have like a locker or a storage space where you keep all your stuff.
Right.
And then, you grab, your water bottle or your coffee mug, and then you drag it to wherever you want to work that day, whether it's a teaming room or workstation or things like that. Because the thing is that, we have different, we were raised differently with technology than our predecessors were. And so we don't necessarily have the attention span to sit at the same desk for 40 years and do the same job.
No, I totally
People
agree.
want to have
sure.
different experiences. I mean, there's so many distractions in life today. Your phone's always buzzing for something. But the work experience should also be as varied as life experience, right? So the world is much smaller now. People know what's on the other side of the globe. People know what their competitors' offices look like. People know what every restaurant looks like before they get there. So the thing is, the static experience of sitting in the same spot every day, is not always the best for every company. And so I think a lot of companies have, and companies want people to be creative. They want them to innovate. And, a lot of people feel like the only way to be creative is to constantly have new experiences so that you can get new ideas. So even, in our office, everyone has desks, but we also have a lot of various spaces where people can go and sit and work away from their desk. And,
you got a cool space.
Yeah, we encourage people to get away from their desk, go sit at a teaming table or go sit at one of the bars or counters or go use the conference room. And then, our office is actually in Newark. So, and we have a ton of big windows so you can kind of see what's happening down in Military Park. And, everybody for the most part, I think, gets out and experiences the city. So even if you're at your desk for a good portion of the day, you can still during lunch or wherever go out and there's a farmer's market in Military Park, or there's, a kickboxing class in Military Park, or you could walk around and always witness something happen.
A bunch of restaurants right there too.
Yeah, there's restaurants. There's NJ Pack, the Performing Arts Center. There's
my wife just interviewed for them.
Oh, nice. Yeah. There's the Prudential Center, where the Devils play, and there's always concerts there. They just put a park in front of Prudential Center. So that's, great outdoor space that's brand new. Yeah, big city park.
They took away parking spaces
to
put a park?
For sure.
What?
So, so the thing is, the city is an ever-changing landscape, and so just to be in a city environment and have that at your disposal. But what if your office is in an office park in suburban Illinois? It's like you're not going to get that variety of experiences.
No. You might have a Starbucks downstairs, and that's about it.
Sure, and I think the company that really rethought what the office space was Google, because they were the ones who kind of get credit for making the office have slides and free food and all this kind of stuff,
open space, and
it was more like this kind of amusement park for work, because their whole company mission was to make information fun. So they figured, why can't we make the office space fun as well? And that's still kind of continuing to this day. But to answer your question, I don't think that there's less of a need for office space. I just think that the program for office space has changed, and what an office has changed. And the office should be the place where people come together to exchange ideas. And if you don't have a physical office, you can definitely find a space to meet using any of these other platforms for meeting space.
Right.
But, that's, I think, why WeWork has gotten so big and so popular, because if you're a 3-person company, it's not that fun to be sitting, insulated in a room somewhere. Whereas like you could be in a campus with all these resources and amenities that you alone wouldn't be able to have. But
the other people.
Sure, and then you have access to the other people too.
Right,
so like you might have a company that does web design, and then like in the space next to you, there might be some graphic designers, and there might be some spaces over there. There might be some sales and marketing people, and so you can actually develop a professional network that you wouldn't ordinarily have if you were just working by yourself in a room in an office building.
Right.
I
think too, even if it's not building a professional network, just being around other people.
Oh
period.
yeah, for sure.
They could be a used car salesman, and a janitor, whatever. Just as long as you're talking to other people, I think it gets things going.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely correct. I mean, there was some Vox article that came out today that said something like, in a recent study by some organization, Millennials reported 30% of millennials say that they're lonely, and 22% say they don't have any friends, right? And so
put the phone down.
Put the phone down. But that's a real statistic from a company that does data, and I don't think that's I think anecdotally that's what we see out in society, right? So it's like you see a lot of people who feel disenfranchised or disconnected from other people because they don't have access to not a fake social network, but a real social network. They have a digital social network. They don't have an analog social network.
Right. That's a good way to put
it. So the thing is, a lot of these digital social networks are great, but they can't be 100% of somebody's social interaction. Like you need to be around people. You need to be doing things with people. You even just like sitting at a coffee shop and being in a room with other people, where
not
who
like
knows,
this,
you might
not like this though.
No, not looking at your phone, but like paying attention, people watching. I actually saw there's a cafe in England somewhere where they have these tables with little cards on them, and the little cards say only sit here if you're comfortable talking to strangers. So the thing is, like, it encourages people to sit down with the intent to have a conversation with somebody they don't know. So if you're walking by and you see somebody sitting at that table, that if you sit down at that table, that person wants to get in a conversation. Yeah. And I think that's kind of a cool idea, and I've often, one of the things that's like one of my hot buttons is like I don't get to go out to restaurants very much because I have 2 kids, but and we stay home and cook a lot, and our schedules are always in conflict. But when we go out to eat, I definitely don't want them to be staring at some sort of digital device. I want to talk to them. I want to hear what they have to say. And too many times you go out to eat, and an entire family of 4 is on their devices all independently.
And
absolutely. So like that was one thing that really struck with me. Like a meal is supposed to be a very intimate, personal experience, even if it's with friends. It's like it's about kind of coming together with the intent to just connect.
Hang out.
And
I met a friend at a restaurant, just a diner. We're in Jersey, so diners, and this couple came in. They were both staring down at their phone, following the waitress. They sat right next to us because, they sit how they sit at a diner. And I was waiting for my friend, and not on my phone because I like to look around and what people watch.
Yeah.
And I just, out of the corner of my eye, I could see they were both looking at their phone the entire time.
Sure.
And then when the food came, they were taking bites between swiping.
Wow.
And never even, I don't know if they said 4 words to each other the whole time they were there.
Maybe they were swiping for new dates while they were sitting there.
That's probably, could be.
They just built a new Panera in my town, and when you walk in, there's 3 digital iPads that's how you order. They've kind of tried to take the cashier out of the equation and just order what you want. And then what's funny is you take one of those little pagers yourself, and it says enter the number of your pager, and you enter the number of your pager, and so then even when your food's ready, they don't even call you, they just hit the pager. So so literally, unless you saw the people making the food, the whole place could be run by robots. You wouldn't even know.
Well, too, the last time I was at Panera, I thought of that. I walk in, and at this Panera they had 6 of those kiosks to order. People were physically standing in line to use the kiosk.
Right.
And there was 2 cashiers like standing over there like, we can help whoever's next. I'm like, all right, hell, I'll skip all you guys.
For sure.
I walked over, they're like, how are you today? And we had a conversation.
Yeah, at this one, because it's like brand new, it's been designed to kind of prioritize the kiosk. But there is a person, a floater, I'll call them, who will go over to a manual register if somebody is really kiosk averse. So if they're like, I don't want to order at a kiosk, there is a floater who will go over to a real register and take your order. But there's only one register, so it's not like they can queue up 10 people easily. But it's not a very high volume store anyway. But But just the idea that, people are trying to find new ways to introduce technology to decrease human contact, is concerning, because I do think we're social animals and that we need to, be around people and talk to people. And
I say that
hang
exact
out
same
in
phrase
groups.
all the time.
Yeah.
We're social animals. We're social beings.
For
we need
sure.
to be around.
So, it is a little bit disconcerting. Technology is great. Don't get me wrong. I'm a huge fan, but it should be used not to, eliminate conversation and eliminate dialogue, but somehow foster better dialogue.
Well, look what we're doing here.
Yeah,
I use
for sure.
technology to get you over here, and now we're talking.
For sure.
No,
it's
so
amazing. It's amazing.
There's a good example.
I mean, but look at what we're doing, right? So in the old days, like if you wanted to have a radio show or anything like that, you would have to own a giant antenna and a radio station, and it's probably a couple $1,000,000 to get that up and running. And now, the barrier to entry is much lower. You just need some fairly, simple audio equipment. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Some simple audio equipment and, a couple microphones, couple headphones, and then, you can digitize it and put it out for the entire world. I mean, that's amazing. The fact that even musicians, they can record now on their laptops and use a bunch of tools and filters and stuff to get the sounds they want and make an entire album without,
right
$1 million recording studio
with a laptop.
And you don't need a producer, you don't need a record label, you could just put it out yourself. Like those types of things, I think technology really excels at, giving people an equal platform or a level playing field to get their message out. But where it gets, I think, misused is when people use the ease of distribution to do bad things. And, I'm not going to get into detail, but, there's a lot of really nefarious activity on some of these platforms.
Of course. And
and
it's always going to be like that, though.
Sure.
It's balance, right?
But culturally, I think it's having an impact. I think people are... I think we're all, a lot of people live in kind of an echo chamber where there's all these advanced algorithms online that essentially push news your way that supports the views you already have, right? So it's like, whatever your particular taste of news is, or even videos, or the stuff you buy on Amazon, if you buy this, you're likely to want this, and it's like, if you watch this video, you're likely to want this video.
Well, that too, and anything that supports their opinion.
Sure.
They're going to just jump all over.
I heard somebody say recently, like, people find the kind of news they want to hear. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
And I think that's a little bit dangerous, because I think it's the diversity of opinion that makes for great conversation, right? So if you and I disagreed on a topic, I would love to have a debate about it, because I want to hear your ideas. I want to hear why you think the way you want. But, the way that technology is utilized online is you don't get that opposite opinion, or at least an intelligent version of the opposite opinion. You just get people screaming at each other, right? So, the thing is that in that way, I think technology can do better to say, well, even though you think this, you should also maybe consider this.
Yeah.
Because I do think that, there is intelligent debate that could happen on any topic where people can realize, well, maybe we're really not that misaligned, but we think we are, because we're only getting the most extreme version of what we think at any given time. And everything now is like a video will be pushed to you because it's popular. It doesn't necessily mean it's good, or that it's right or correct or true. It's just like, well, this is the most popular, so we're going to show you this. And you have a very small percentage of people pushing out all of those views, and so you would think that that's the prevailing thought in any topic, when in fact it's really just a very small group of people kind of promoting that thought, online. And so you have to kind of be careful with the kind of information you look for. But that's why I tend to almost stay off social media, because it's hard to know what's true and what's not true and what's correct. I just kind of go by what I see and experience myself for the most part.
Yeah.
So if everybody says, hey, this restaurant's good, I don't necessarily judge it by the Yelp reviews of people who had bad service. I go there and I say, okay, I had a better experience. So maybe, they've got it figured out, or maybe that person, works for a competing restaurant or whatever.
Or that day they were just having a shitty day.
Or that day they were just having a bad day. Maybe they lost their power an hour before I got there, and, all the food was room temperature before, it needed to be. So yeah, it's hard to know, and I think you just have to go by what you experience to make your own determinations on things. So that's kind of what I try to do.
Well, that's the same way, and I just put a post up on my Instagram, and it said, I'm to the point now I take myself out of arguments.
Yeah.
If you say 1 + 1 is 5, I go, you're absolutely correct. Enjoy. Thanks. Next. And it's like, I'm not going to sit there and argue with you.
Yeah.
Somebody described that really well, situations like that. obviously World War I, right?
Right.
You got trenches on both sides. The middle is quote unquote dead, right?
Right.
Because nobody will get in there, and everybody's lobbing shit.
Right.
So yeah, we're right. Yeah, we're right, going back and forth.
Right.
But nobody's in the middle going, whoa, what the hell's
Sure.
going on here?
Right.
You know, and just the way he made that scenario, I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing that I see too, which is really strange, and it's almost like watching a time machine, is when people look at things that are 20, 30, 40 years old through the filter of today. You know?
Oh, dude, we could talk about this for 40. Oh, we could go on forever about
So
this.
you ever watch like an old
Holy
movie,
shit.
like
Okay.
Revenge of the Nerds or something?
Right.
And you're just watching it going, ooh, like, oh, this could never be made today. They're just, it's like the most misogynistic, the most sexist,
Right.
you know, the most inappropriate, anything. But, you know, when those movies came out, I remember they were like classics, like all these old, you know, and you know, you can't do that though. You can't look at something 20, 30, 40 years old with the lens of today. You have to put it in the context of when it was made, right?
No, absolutely.
So, you know, it's like you have people coming out saying, well, this person did this thing to me 17 years ago. And you're just like, well, how come you didn't speak up 17 years ago?
Yeah.
You can't, you can't do that. And so, you know, and then I think that's, you know, that's like a trap of, you know, how aware we are. It's like, you know, you have to just try and do better tomorrow. I'm not saying forget about what happened yesterday, but you can't all of a sudden just dismiss anything, whether it's art or, you know, or music or cinema. Like you have all these people going, should I throw out all my Michael Jackson records? And it's like, no, they're good records, you know? Geez. It's like, forget about, you know, whatever he did or didn't do. And I'm not saying he did or didn't do anything. I'm just saying it's good music, empirically speaking. Right. I mean, if we found out Pablo Picasso was a horrible womanizer who did terrible things, you know, it's like, does that mean his art is bad? Like, no. You know,
there'll be people that start burning that shit.
Oh, yeah.
And this comment I'm about to make, my comments will fucking become a dumpster fire, but it's a perfect example of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Slavery.
Right.
Right? People are like, slavery is wrong. Okay, well, how the fuck? Dude, look how long ago that was.
Right.
We're looking at it now.
Right.
Okay, back then, that's just the way it was.
Right.
You know, did people think it was wrong at that time? Sure.
Right.
Right. But that's okay. That'd be like me telling you that you can't wear a red suit.
Right.
Why not?
Right.
Well, just because that's my opinion.
Right.
What the fuck is?
Yeah, know? I mean, I don't know. Again, context is everything, right?
Yeah.
So the thing is, like, obviously, you know, there were not the tools of communication or the tools of awareness in those days. Excuse me. I think if people had the ability to organize and spread information, it would have been a much different story.
Yeah.
But look at people today who are kind of under the thumb of the economy, their employers. They're working 3 jobs just to make ends meet.
Wow.
They're, it's like their lives aren't, they don't seem as liberated as we would think that they are. They might feel the same crunch of being under the thumb of an owner, just like a business owner. You know what I mean? Like when if you have a boss that says, you have to work 16 hours a day, double shifts, and I'm not going to pay you any more money. I mean, there's a bunch of really great investigative books on this topic. There's a book called Nickel and Dimed. I forget the woman's name, but it was a Newsweek writer who kind of went undercover to see if she could live in these small kind of middle America places just on the wages that she could earn, either like working at Walmart or being a housekeeper.
Yep.
And she basically made a rule. She's like, I'm going to move to these really remote places, these small town USA, and I'm going to try and get whatever job I could get qualified for. And, I'm going to see if I can physically support myself on the wages that I can earn as if I didn't have a college degree and as if I wasn't a writer and if I didn't do this thing.
So she ends up being a waitress and
exactly. She's a waitress, she's a maid, and she works at Walmart. And she doesn't work all 3 jobs simultaneously. She does like a couple months at each job just to see like if she could survive. And if you read the book, it's just like, she says like this is a really hard life. Like you're not eligible to live wherever you want. You can only live in the worst places available. It's just like, cause you don't earn enough to be able to support yourself. And she talks about, living on like, really minimal rations of food and just saying like,
and not quality food either.
And not quality food either, And so it's really, it's a lot, we think that we all are really lucky. We have it really great, for sure. But, there are a lot of people who, I've read about people who choose to go to prison and commit crime because they'll get like
easier.
3 square meals a day and a place to live, and it's easier.
Yeah.
And, and that's a really heartbreaking thing to think about,
Yeah, the guy that did, was it Super Size Me? Remember that? Where he did a movie or a show about minimum wage.
Sure.
I can't remember what it was called.
Yeah.
But he went out and did the same thing where he's like, okay, I'm going to get a job on minimum wage and see how I can live. And it was struggle.
There's another really great book that I just finished called Evicted. And what it's about is it profiles these different people who live in Milwaukee. Milwaukee has one of the, most economically challenged communities of people living on public assistance and housing vouchers and things like that. Mm-hmm. And man, if you read this book, it is heartbreaking how hard we as a society make it for people to climb out of, a bad situation.
Yeah.
And, you hear these things that people say that, turn out to be completely false about like, well, poor people keep having kids so they get more money from the government. That's not true. They don't get any more money for having more kids. There's a cap. Once you hit like 2 or 3 kids, like that's it. You're not getting any more money.
Yep.
And you hear a lot of people say, oh, I'd love to have the government pay on my bill. Like, no, you would not want that life. Believe me. And if you read this book, you read how hard these people have it. And just how they're all trying to do better, but just the system is kind of rigged against them, right? So when you say things like, slavery, I'm like, yeah, that was horrible. But then when you look at, we're probably the richest country in the world and how many people we have living in the most challenging of circumstances. And, you have this incredible wealth inequity, where, the rich people, the people wealthiest,
like 1%
the wealthiest,
something like that,
1/10 of 1% or something have like a ridiculous percentage. And I'm not advocating for socialism where we're just handing out everything. I'm not a proponent of that. But I do think there should be the means by which somebody has an opportunity to improve their situation. And I believe if people want to do that, there should be a channel for that. But again, contextually, it's really hard to look just at one item like slavery. And obviously it was not correct. But there's a lot of people now in probably similar circumstances that it's not called slavery, but at the same point, it's like they're probably just, if not more, challenged
or suppressed, right?
Yeah, than some of those people were. And I'm not, I'm not trying to talk about, privilege or anything like that. I'm just saying to be blind to the fact that it's happening is
well,
pretty
people are
ignorant.
blind. I believe people are blind to it because it's not convenient for them.
Sure.
They don't want to look at it because, look where we live. You can see how I live.
But, there's hardly a city you can go to now where you don't encounter a good amount of homeless people, right?
Oh, God.
And so people would say, well, homelessness is a horrible problem. But, like you need to understand why that person is homeless,
right.
Because they just get labeled as alcoholics and drug addicts and, but really, it probably has more to do with mental illness, than anything else, because it's not like there aren't resources to help people who are looking for help. There's a lot of philanthropic dollars that go into trying to help people who need help. But if somebody's not seeking help, or maybe they're not even aware that they need help, then it becomes a completely different situation. And I do believe there's a lot of tech companies actually trying to solve this problem of being able to provide homeless people with the resources that would help them. I heard about this one company that makes these like digital bracelets that allow them to actually get money electronically. So if, let's say, you wanted to give a homeless person money and they subscribe to this digital bracelet system, you would actually pay through, send them money through an app. Their bracelet is essentially their like key card to that app. And it helps them essentially. It's not like, and then they could use the money on that bracelet to cash it in for food or sleep, lodging or whatever.
Right.
But it's a more,
if they get it stolen, beat, fucking rolled.
But it also, I think gives them like a transponder if they need help, if something happens to them, it's like it allows them to be identified. Some people would probably say that's a little too big brother. You're tracking them, that sort of thing. But
but if we're talking mental health issue,
you don't know.
He might not, or he or she might not know they need help.
For sure. And a lot of these people have families, and the families would, probably help them if they knew where they were. You know what I mean?
Oh, I see.
But just to be able to know who these people are, have them come in for regular checkups, even for just to see if they're reasonably healthy otherwise,
Right.
and provide resources for that. And that's, homelessness is something that I really spend a lot of time thinking about because, we do a lot of lodging and hospitality work. And I've always wondered why we can create tens of thousands or millions of hotel rooms, but we can't create, sustainable accommodations for people who are sleeping on the street.
My barber back in Colorado, he would spend days of the month down at the homeless shelter cutting her hair.
Yeah, wow, that's great.
Because, I mean, how good do you feel when you get your hair cut?
Yeah.
You got a big mop of hair that's all unkept. You get that all trimmed up. Nice.
Sure.
It just makes you feel better.
Yeah, well, on the lighter side, what I've been seeing a lot recently, there's this Instagram account called Global Positive News. You should totally follow it because what they do... Global Positive News. Ironically, it's not as popular as as they don't have as many followers as like CNN or Fox, but they actually profile these kind of feel good stories about people trying to do stuff. And what you tend to see a lot is like young kids. I'm talking about like 10, 11, 12-year-old kids, who like fill backpacks up full of, food and leave it on, lampposts for homeless people to take, or jackets. They'll just hang jackets on, public telephone poles and say, this is for a homeless person. Like you see this kind of level of social consciousness among younger people, which is amazing. They actually like say, I don't, kids who donate their birthday or their holiday money to some sort of cause, and it's amazing to see that they care so much about the problems that they see in the world. And, if that could become viral, like if that kind of sentiment could mobilize more people, I think that would be pretty incredible, because really what it takes, just like we were saying before, we're social animals.
Right.
Instead of walking over the person, to sit down next to them and say, hey, how's it going? What are you doing? What are you feeling? How can I help you? Or do you need help? Or do you not need help? Or you just need somebody to talk to?
Well, I kind of did that.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I'll get your opinion of this. I used to spend a lot of time in Vegas. So I would go to Vegas. I would grab a 6-pack of beer and a handle.
Right.
And I would go sit with a homeless dude.
Nice.
Grab his, say, hey man, give me your sign while you're drinking.
Right.
And I'd be like, hey man, help this guy out. And I'd talk to him, hey man, where are you from? What'd you do? A lot of times they feed you a bunch of shit because that's just whatever. But it was just kind of fun to listen to them and some of them. And the reason I did that, I had a good friend of mine that I practiced martial arts with for years.
Sure.
He was homeless by choice.
Wow.
He was just like you and I. When I say that, I mean no mental issues, that I know of.
Right.
But, so he would work at McDonald's, stack all his money, then be homeless for as long as he possibly could. And when he was working at McDonald's, he was homeless. He'd be sleeping on the street, come in, wash up in the bathroom, work, and they're like, "Hey, the guy's a great worker." That. And he's always presentable and polite. When we trained martial arts and all that, so I don't know, he was by choice.
Yeah.
So
some people just don't want to be, slave to an institution of
whatever it might be.
Whatever it might be.
Yeah,
right. So there's nothing wrong with that, and it's just you just want to make sure that you're not stepping over somebody and not seeing them. Right, you know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
Because
no, I totally
when
agree.
Somebody feels invisible, that's when they then say, okay, what do I got to do to make myself uninvisible? And that's usually
in a negative way.
In a negative way, and that's when stuff happens where all of a sudden, they always say it like after some big tragedy happens, they're like, all the signs were there, we just missed them, and you go back and they look at their Facebook post and there's all this dark stuff and they're like, oh man, how did we not know this was going to happen? But the thing is, like, nobody's paying attention. We're all too busy in our own little ecosystems.
Well, nobody gives a shit about you, dude.
No,
nobody cares about you.
No, and
they're so self-centered,
that could also be
man.
a positive thing too. If you literally say, my future is entirely dependent on my actions, and you're not expecting it is, but you're not expecting anything from anybody.
Right.
You can actually use that little sentiment to your advantage, and it's like, there's that phrase, whatever it is, it's like, be so good that they can't help but notice you kind of thing, because nobody notices you. Nobody cares. Everybody's in their own little world.
Yep, absolutely.
So, that could also be inspirational to say, okay, I need to be so good that they can't ignore me. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that's, I think how people really make their mark on their respective fields. Like if you look at, let's say, like The Rock, right? Like Dwayne Johnson. That dude gets up every morning at 4 a.m. You know what I mean? And then he goes to the gym for 3 hours.
And then he goes to bed at like midnight.
Yeah, and then he goes to work for like 14 hours. And then guess what? He goes back to the gym. And then he goes to bed for 3 hours. And then he wakes up and does it all again. But, he constantly says he wants to be the hardest worker in the room. When he's up at 4 a.m, he's like, I know my competition's sleeping, So, and that's inspirational because,
Absolutely.
How else is anybody going to care unless you're that remarkable, that, exceptional?
Well, speaking of him, using The Rock as an example, how can you not like that guy? Right? Does he have any haters?
I'm sure he does.
Yeah,
I'm sure he does.
Yeah, but the reason they're hating on him is because they want to be like that and they don't want to put the work in.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Definition of a
I'm
hater.
a huge fan. Do you know the comedian Cat Williams?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
He says something. I mean, he's so funny, but he says, something like, if you don't have 15 or 20 haters, make that your mission. Go out and get... He's like, if you got 20 haters, go out and get 20 more. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because you need the haters to kind of motivate you.
Fuel you.
Because like the better you get, the more people are going to hate you, right?
Right.
And so he says it in kind of a tongue-in-cheek way. But I believe, for all the success one person has, there's 30 people that'd be like, I can't stand that person.
Yeah.
Because what happens is that person reveals the weakness in the hater, right? So,
Absolutely.
So whoever it is you don't like, that's because they possess some quality that you wish you had, right? And
so you probably do have it. But you don't have the
yeah.
fucking balls or the energy to go do it.
Sure. Yeah,
like I post every morning when I go to the gym. I'm at the gym. The gym opens at 5, so I'm at the gym at 5. And on the way to the gym, I have, because on your stories it's like a 30 seconds or whatever it is. I hold it up through the dark, so you see me driving down the road. And on the radio or on my phone, I have some motivation shit just blaring.
For sure.
And that's it. That's all I put on there. I don't put anything else. And it's like, no, this is what I do. And if that motivates you, great. If you don't fucking like it, well, that's on you, because you're like, man, what fucker gets up at 5, 4:30? Man, what fuck that? It's
right.
like, yeah, because you can't get up at 4:30.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many times, though, in the morning at 4:30, I'm like, wow, fuck.
Yeah.
I got to get up.
Yeah.
But the reason I told you that story is because, man, them fucking haters, man, if I don't post something by 5 o'clock, see, motherfucker?
Yeah.
So haters do, they
for
get
sure.
me going too.
For sure. I mean, like, how many magazines sell magazines by showing you the thing that you don't have? Like, I swear, every issue of Men's Health or Men's Fitness is like,
I read Men's Health for years, dude.
Rock hard abs in 3 weeks. You're like, man, I need some rock hard abs.
Yeah, I got 3 weeks.
I got 3 weeks. And then like you dig for the article, and there's no article in the magazine called Rock Hard Abs in 3 weeks. There's like some blurb and some sub article that's just cut out carbs and you'll whatever.
Do a few more push-ups.
But like literally every single month, there's always some blurb about abs, because dudes are like, hey man, I need to get me some abs, but what they do is they envy the idea of having the abs, but then there's no secret to getting abs. Just freaking eat right, and do a lot of sit-ups and you'll get some abs.
Well, they say abs are made in the kitchen.
For
not
sure.
in the gym, right?
Yeah, no, not in the gym. Definitely in the kitchen.
I got a funny meme. I'm a big fan of memes.
Sure.
And I got this funny meme. It's these two big guys, in the gym. And it says, yeah, those abs are cool, but so is lifting a car. So it's like, yeah, those are cute abs.
Yeah.
My girlfriend's younger brother has those. He's 120 pounds.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So there's always those jokes about abs. But,
yeah. My 8-year-old son is ripped as hell, man. When he takes his shirt off, you could see every muscle in that dude's body. Yeah. I was like, and I don't want to tell him like, this is probably the last age you'll ever have abs. No, but he might. He's super athletic, so who knows?
Well, the thing too, I got a buddy I work out with. He's like 25. He's all ripped. I go, yeah, because your metabolism's running at fucking 10,000 RPM.
Sure.
I go, wait till you hit 45, dude. It goes clank.
Right.
Well,
actually, there's a really good book. I don't know if you've read it. It started out, I think, as a speech and then became a book. But it's by this guy named Dr. Michael Greger. It's called How Not to Die. And so what the book breaks down essentially how your body changes over as you get older. You're
Like
in your
20s
20s and your 30s and 40s.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
I know
so,
the concept. I've
so
read
what
the book.
so what he breaks down is that basically the food you eat contributes to all sorts of inflammation and degradation in your body. And if you change your diet to, around these particular foods and so forth, I'm not going to give away the punchline, but but essentially you can not stop the aging process, but definitely restore a lot of it and significantly slow down. So like, they do all this, clinical studies and stuff like that about it, people who follow like plant-based diets and certain things. And what he did is he went to all these other cultures all over the world where they don't eat meat at all and they just live on plants, and they have almost zero incidence of the chronic diseases that we have, like no cancers, no heart disease, no diabetes, whatever.
Right.
And their bodies biologically function at a much younger age than their physical age. And so he basically breaks down that like food is essentially the medicine you need.
Oh, absolutely. I think food is absolutely medicine.
Yeah, which is something that like, again, you can't look at things today, I mean, things of the past through today's eyes, right? So if you look at, for example, like smoking, right? Like in the 1960s, something like 70% of the population smoked, the adult population. Right. And you
Probably
look
80% of the
you
young
look at it
population.
today and you're like, oh my gosh, how did they not know they were giving themselves lung cancer? Because we know more today, right?
Right.
I think that like 20 years from now, we'll be like, how is it that we were eating all this $1.99 steak from Walmart and not thinking it was going to kill us,
Right.
I think it's the same thing. And so, it's just funny because, we all we think we're so enlightened and we're so smart, but we all still do so many things that are really, really bad for us, and the same, like you see it with smartphones, like we were talking about before. Like if you think that there's going to be a positive biological result of being on your phone for 5 hours a day, you're wrong.
Yeah, I'm gonna say.
You're wrong.
That's taking you in the other direction.
Sure. So it's like if we can project a little bit and imagine ourselves 20 years from now looking back and saying, how did we not know that?
Well, in 20 years, it's going to be in your head and through your contact lens. And you're not
Yeah.
going to have to look at all that shit. It's all going to be all...
Are those Google glasses you got on there?
No.
They look kind of slick, though.
Thanks. But yeah, that's technology is... We could talk on that long time, but...
Yeah. What are some of your favorite movies growing up? Like when you were growing up, like what were some of the movies that you were like, oh, this is my favorite movie?
Oh, shit, dude. Like, I'll tell you... I'll give you my 3 favorite movies of all time.
All right, let's hear it.
Rounders.
Okay. Matt Damon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a card player.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Ed Norton.
Yep.
He's slick fucking... Goodfellas.
Okay.
Classic.
Yep.
And ready for this one?
Let's hear it.
Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man.
Oh my God. I've never seen that one. I've
Dude,
heard about it.
Oh my God. Okay. The way I explain this movie, I'm going to hang the poster
Let's
right
hear
here.
the synopsis of Harley Davidson and the Marlboro
I'm going
Man.
to, because I have the movie poster.
Right.
The original movie poster. And there's a difference. I bought it on eBay.
Oh, you're the one, huh?
Yep. There's certain words on it that only the original has it. Because, you can buy reprints like off Amazon and shit.
Sure.
So if you buy the reprint, it doesn't have these. But I have it in a frame, and I was going to put it right here on this wall. And we were talking about it right before you came, and my wife's like, I don't think that's, no. I was like, come on.
So give me the quick plot synopsis of Harley Davidson and the Marlboro
It's
Man.
the fucking absolute worst movie you'll ever see, but it's amazing.
Is there a plot at all? I mean,
No, it's a bunch of shit talking. Mickey Rourke is Harley Davidson.
Okay.
And obviously he rides a bike. He's all leather. And then Don Johnson is Marlboro Man. And, of course, he's a cowboy.
wow.
And all they do is talk shit the whole time. They meet back up at a bar that they all grew up with years ago. And some big corporation is trying to buy the bar because it's in a prime real estate spot. And they have a good idea to rob the bank. And then when they rob the bank, it's actually the armored car has drugs in it. So, it turns around that. And it's super fucking goofy, dude. But
so instead of Bonnie and Clyde, it's Harley and the Marlboro guy.
Pretty much.
Heists
It's
and
fucking,
stuff.
and like I said, the one-liners, I'm a big fan of those. So
Yeah.
It's just a fun movie.
I grew up loving Coming to America with Eddie Murphy.
Oh, that's a classic.
And Arsenio
Yeah,
Hall.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I have a friend, we would be able to quote pretty much every line start to finish. And like all the barbershop scenes and everything.
Of course.
Oh, it's so funny. And then The Princess Bride. I don't know if you've ever seen that one.
Yeah, with Andre the Giant.
Andre the Giant.
There's
and,
a good fart story about that. Did you ever hear that?
No.
They were, I think it was when he allegedly pulled the guy up the cliff.
Right.
You know, they were looking at him, and he was like, I'm not feeling so good. And they're like, you okay? And I guess he farted for like 45 seconds. And like everybody was like, what the and he's like, I'm good now.
Yeah.
And they like, it was a crazy
I think
story.
there's a documentary about Andre the Giant. I don't know if
I
you've
watched
seen
it.
it.
It's
It's
great.
where they talk about his farts being just these legendary, noxious,
Yep.
like will knock you out, how bad they were.
Yeah, the limo drivers used to talk about that because they'd haul them around and then, you know. Oh,
Jesus. Anyway,
that's a good
Princess
classic.
Bride.
I wouldn't have put that one on you.
Oh my God, it's just a funny, one-liners. You know, all these
of
little things that you can just repeat. And,
Was that Farm Boy?
Yeah.
Is it Farm Boy? Where she calls him that?
Yeah, I mean,
Was it Farm Boy?
you're talking about in
Catch
the
me.
beginning with the princess when she's
She's like, catch me, give me this, Farm Boy, give me
as
this.
you wish when he says as you wish. Princess
Sitting there
Bride.
quoting fucking Princess Bride.
Yeah. I think his name was Wesley.
Wesley.
Yeah. Farm Boy, maybe.
Yeah, that's a Farm Boy. Yeah.
So Princess Bride, Coming to America, and then another Good Will Hunting. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie.
So going to now, classic line in that where they're on the bench by the lake.
Yeah.
Goes about what we were just talking about.
Right.
So if you're on Instagram all day long and you're looking at all these places all over the world,
right?
Sure, you can quote them and enjoy them, but were you really there?
Yeah.
So like that whole.
He's like, you can have all the academic knowledge in the world, but you don't know shit about life because you haven't actually done any living, you know?
Yeah, that was great scene.
No, that was, I mean, that movie though, the idea that, that this somebody who's so smart, right, and can have anything he wants in the world somehow can't like get his life together.
Yeah.
And so, basically the point is life isn't always about winning and being smart. It's about like being in the moment and investing in
big
people.
Fan of being in the moment.
And, he tells him like, go chase this girl, like forget about all this stuff at MIT and, whatever. Just like go chase this girl. Your life will turn out much better.
Well, I used that line.
Yeah. I forgot to say spoiler alert if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, Joe, if you haven't seen it.
He goes after the girl.
Yeah. I use that line a lot when my wife and I text each other, like when we're out and about.
Sure.
And going to see about a girl.
Yeah.
And that's my cue. I'm coming home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use that line all the time.
Yeah, so I just remember seeing that movie and it just being, just so different from anything else that was out at that time. And that was like nobody knew who Matt Damon or Ben Affleck was. And Robin Williams had this bit part where he was really different from typical Robin Williams. He's like the pensive old dude with the beard. And
yep. How about Sling Blade?
Oh, Billy Bob.
Did you watch it? Take some of the biggins.
Yeah.
That was.
Some people call it Lawnmower Blade. I call Sling Blade.
Sling Blade, yeah. That was one of the very few movies at the very end, because this is back when it was still on VHS, right?
Sure.
At the very end, we rewound it and watched it again.
Right.
That was such a great movie.
We rewound it and watched it again.
That and...
It'll be done soon.
Yeah, we got time.
Yeah.
And the other one was... Shawshank Redemption.
Oh yeah,
that's a classic.
Who didn't love Shawshank?
Yeah, I was going to say there's no way you.
I
could
feel
not
like nobody
that.
really knew who Morgan Freeman was before Shawshank, and then once
really?
that movie.
You
I mean,
think
no,
so?
I'm just saying like think of a movie that Morgan Freeman made before Shawshank. I guarantee you, any movie you can think of came after Shawshank.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Now you got me rolling.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he was in a bunch of stuff, but it was probably like a fairly small role.
Stuff. And then
but when people saw him in that, because he's the narrator in a lot of the film,
right,
or most of the film, and it's like his voice. People are like, "Oh man, this guy's got a good voice,"
Boom.
People, there's a question like, "Oh, if you could meet any celebrity, who would you want to meet?" And it's just funny. Like for a while, I would be like, "I want to meet Morgan Freeman so I can have him tape my outgoing answering machine message." Imagine somebody calling you and it's like Morgan Freeman's on the tape. You're like, "Oh my God, did I just call God?"
What?
I think he played God in like Bruce Almighty or something.
Bruce Almighty was God. Yeah.
It's just funny. He's got that voice, and I think every few months, like somebody says he's dead on Facebook or something. He's been, accused of being dead so many times.
Well, on the podcast, Facebook page, I put a post up with a park bench.
Right.
And said if you could sit down for an hour with anybody, dead or alive.
Dead or alive? That's a good one. What's your answer?
I put The Rock.
The Rock?
Yeah.
The actual Dwayne Johnson? Mm-hmm. You want to meet Dwayne Johnson? Mm-hmm. I might be able to help you with it. No, I don't know.
No, The Rock, because I think he's so well, I don't know, rounded is the word, but like he's so deep with his, like you could sit there and probably tell fucking corny one-line jokes, but then have a pretty heavy conversation with him as well.
But I also feel like he's so genuine as a human being. You like who he is when you would meet him would be exactly who he is on social media.
Point.
So
yeah,
like you wouldn't necessarily, it wouldn't be like revelatory in any way.
Right.
It's not like you'd leave there going, oh, I found something about him out I didn't know. No, everybody knows everything there is to know because he's like totally transparent and like who he is who he is.
That's a good point.
You know what I mean? So like I'd be interested in like meeting somebody that I don't know anything about that I just think is cool as shit, right? So you know, or you know, especially if you're throwing in the dead or alive card. I mean, that really opens the playing field.
Who would you throw in there? I got one that'll blow you up.
Dead or alive.
That I wouldn't mind doing. Hitler.
Yeah, he'll blow you up, all right. Yeah, no.
But the thing is, imagine how.
I mean, if you're going dead or alive, I might like want to sit with like Einstein for a couple hours.
I think that would be a boring conversation.
No, because I think
he'd be like, there's a.
All right, just imagine this for 1 second, right? He lives in a time where the way people find out his information is like through the newspaper, right? So the thing is like nobody really knows what the dude is like, but you know the thing is there's a quote attributed to Einstein where he has to explain the theory of relativity to like the average person,
sure,
because you know like he's
layman's
terms, right? And he has a quote, and I'm going to paraphrase here, but it's something like, you know. If you had your hand on a hot kettle for a minute or a second and it feels like a minute, or if you sat next to like a pretty girl for an hour and it feels like a minute, like that's relativity. Like basically how fast things move or how fast time moves is all a function of the context of the time. And I'm totally butchering it. I'm sure it's way more eloquent.
But it makes to see.
But the thing is, he was really able to speak at the average layman's level, but because he's famous for just publishing all these theories and ideas and papers, the only things that, you know, they're like, if they're going to dedicate print space to anything Einstein said, it's going to be some revelatory scientific thing.
Right.
But he had so many ideas on everyday life that, you know, to be able to walk in both worlds and have this like extreme knowledge of how the universe works, and at the same time be able to like, you know, talk about relationships or talk about,
but the thing is, though, you hear the stories that he wore the same clothes every day.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
He was one of them that...
That's fine. One less thing to worry about, right?
Right. Well, that was the whole idea because he was like off in his own thing. So I don't know.
Do you mean like the actual same garment or just he had a whole closet full of the same sweater?
He had the same... Yeah, not the actual garment.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
He
Identical clothes.
Yeah,
right.
he washed them.
So it's the whole Steve Jobs thing, right?
Sure.
Back then. But that's why I'm thinking that would be a weird conversation with him because I think he'd be all over the fucking place.
That's great. I mean,
I guess that would make good conversation.
To be able to see just for a minute, like how his mind moves from place to place and what he's actually thinking about, because there's these papers that were written on, you know, he gets credited with a lot of really creative stuff, but what people don't realize is it took him a really long time. Like he wouldn't just work on one thing solid for a year and be done with it. He would work on like 8 things at once for like 10 years, right?
Right.
And then, you know, so he was actually not creative in spurts. He was just like really creative over a long period of time. But he'd like pick up this thing and work on that and then he'd be working on like tons of things concurrently. It just so happens that, you know, he kind of arrived at, you know, a lot of the conclusions around the same time, but it's not like it happened in a short period of time. Like he had been working on so much for so long. Plus I think he taught at Princeton. He was like a professor.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being in Einstein's class?
Yeah, but at the time they didn't know.
Yeah, I mean,
it's kind of like we did a tour at Alcatraz.
Yeah.
And the tour guide was like, at that time, what's his name? He's fucking another prisoner. Over time made him famous.
Yeah.
So imagine being in Einstein's class at that time. He's just another fucking crazy old kook sitting up there, right?
With weird hair.
Yeah, with weird hair, wearing the same fucking suit every day, right?
Yeah. I think I would want to, you know, so I'd either talk to Einstein or I would really love to talk to Prince. I I mean, Prince is
that
like,
would be cool.
talk about
say
Prince didn't do a lot of press. He didn't do a lot of interviews. He kind of kept to himself. He had a compound in Minneapolis, right? Paisley Park. But I mean, the level of musical intelligence and genius and life, I guess at the end of his life, he was pretty religious. I heard he was a Jehovah's Witness and wouldn't have surgery for his back or whatever, because I guess they're not allowed to like have blood transfusions or anything like that. But just the sheer arc of that guy's creative career, how prolific he was, how he had kind of done everything. He went from like wild guy to conservative guy to like religious guy. I mean, just the amount of things that guy must have thought about in his lifetime.
Crazy.
And there's some crazy number of how many unreleased recordings he had in his vault.
Right.
That he would record at least a couple new songs every single day or something. It's just like, I would love to talk to that guy just for a short
but talk
window.
to him when he was, 6 months before he died, or talk to him when his career was 6 years old.
No, right before he died. Like, I want to
you
hear
get all
right
that, right?
Yeah, because the wisdom and the life that person then has at the later years, I think is far more interesting, because they're able to compare and contrast every point of their life.
So where in the earlier years, there's
and
no
say like, when I was 25, I thought the world worked this way, but over time, I actually reflected and thought and prayed or whatever, and now I believe the world works this way. I think going back to one of the things I think about a lot is I think one of the most untapped resources in our society is like older people, like
absolutely
senior citizens, like
Go
these
sit and
people.
talk with them, man.
Dude, my favorite conversations in the world are talking to older, and they're not even interested in technology. It's somebody gave them a phone to FaceTime with their grandkids, and they're like, I don't know how to work this shit, But like the funny thing is like you sit, and these are people who like the best conversations you will ever have.
Yeah, because they grew their whole life. They've developed conversation because that's the only communication they have.
For sure. Like there was there wasn't even color TV when they were growing up. They're just like, the whole neighborhood had one television, and we used to pile in to watch the Milton Berle show. And it's like, that was like their, but how to talk to people, how to communicate, how to pass on traditions, generation after generation. Some of the best stories I've ever heard and the best conversations I've ever had were with people who've seen a ton of shit, and not just like been there, done that, but literally were 150% in that moment. Right. Like they could tell you how a croissant tasted in Paris in 1945.
Right. Well, that's why this podcast called Walt's Kitchen Table.
Yeah.
The idea came from, because as I grew up, all the best fucking stories I ever heard.
Yeah.
In my house growing up, the kitchen was standing room only. Well, the 3 rooms around the kitchen were completely fucking empty.
Yeah.
Right? And all these old people that, friends of my parents, friends of them, you're hearing all these fucking great stories.
Right.
And that's why I started this, to sit here and talk with you.
Yeah.
Like the fucking WeWork or the WeLive space. Yeah. That's fucking cool. I would have never known that.
Yeah, you should check it out.
Yeah.
And the thing is like...
And that you like Princess Bride.
Yeah.
Come on.
Who doesn't like Princess? If you don't like Princess Bride, you haven't seen Princess Bride.
You're not comfortable with yourself if you don't like Princess Bride.
And then the guy in Princess Bride, Christopher Guest, who played Count Rugen, the Six-Fingered Man, he went on to make all those mockumentaries, like Best in Show and Spinal. He was in Spinal Tap and all this cool stuff. Like it's just a chain of creative genius if you follow the Princess Bride trail.
Yeah.
Back to like senior citizens, like the fact that most seniors are, if they have means, they're like living in these senior communities by themselves where nobody ever visits them. It's like, I don't know why we don't find a way to pull them back into multi-generational living.
Absolutely.
To be around some of these like lost younger people, to like even just talk to them. You know what I mean? But
the younger people have to be receptive of that. I mean,
I don't know about you, but I think everybody could use a couple more friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So I'm certainly not. I would love to have a couple more friends. And I'm not. I'm not saying I don't have any friends, but like, who couldn't use a couple more friends? Like, I don't know about you, but growing up, I had a mother who constantly was just on me about everything, just making sure. And then you grow to learn as you get older, like they're doing that because they care about you,
Absolutely,
right? Yeah. And who can honestly say like, oh, I don't need anybody else caring about me? It's like. Like,
No, stop it.
Like people are, especially older people are programmed that like once you become a part of their life, like they want to see you, they want to. They want to be involved. They want to have an opinion about like, and I was lucky to have like, a bunch of aunts and uncles and grandparents for a short time who was just like, there was a certain feeling you got when you were around them that you honestly felt like they just gave a shit about you. You know what I mean? Whether it was the food that they cook for you or the special accommodations they made because they knew you were coming.
Right.
I went out and got this candy that I know you like or whatever.
Right.
I had a grandmother who would always buy Nestle Quick Powder. Remember that stuff with like
Christ,
the
dude.
silver can with that little
with the
pop
little
top.
pop top in the middle
Yeah,
of it.
yeah. And then, the bunny on it. And she would just have this Nestle because she
Strawberry or chocolate?
Chocolate, yeah. Not strawberry.
You didn't want a strawberry fan?
No, I like the chocolate. But and there was a certain cup she would always give me. It would be like a ritual almost. Like, I'd come over and have the Nestle Quick. And,
Yep.
And those kind of things, like, I feel almost like people are missing out by not creating those types of moments. And like nowadays, I laugh because every time it's somebody's birthday, like I have kids and they go to a lot of birthday parties and it's like the gift card posse. Like they always just getting all these like Amazon gift cards and Visa gift cards and whatever. And it's just like, oh, just what I wanted for my birthday, gift cards. Like, it's like, but nobody really knows anybody well enough to get them something that actually, something. Yeah, exactly.
Right, yeah.
It's just, it's like with boys, it's either gift cards or Legos, and with girls, it seems to be gift cards or slime. Like it's like the thing.
Well, going back to what you're saying with older people, and it'll be younger too, but I do a bunch of volunteer work with Play for Your Freedom.
Oh, nice.
And it's vets.
That's awesome.
Right?
Yeah.
And we did one workshop, I do one a month in Bernardsville at the VA. And some older, we do physical activities, right?
Sure.
Well, the older guys and ladies come out. Well, they can't do the physical activities, so they come out and watch. So it's nice out, just to get in camaraderie, right?
Sure.
So I sit with those guys all the time, man, and just get them wound up, man. They start talking shit and telling old stories. I love them. I love it.
It's great. Yeah. It's absolutely great. And, unfortunately, it's a resource that's not going to be around much because then we're going to be older, right? And we're going to be the old people. And, fortunately or unfortunately, like a lot of us haven't been in the service. We haven't seen war. We haven't had those types of life-altering experiences that really make you just glad to be alive. We're really lucky in that respect. But, I hate to say it, but because we grew up with a lot of technology at our tips and all the answers, searchable
right away,
we're just not as interesting. You know what I mean? They had to figure shit out. I had a godfather who was really mechanically inclined. And he would rebuild.
Out of necessity.
Yeah, out of necessity.
Right?
But if something would break, dude would take it apart and fix it. The air conditioner broke. He's like, well, let me just open it up and see what's going on in there. Like we don't live in that society
that away
anymore.
And go buy
we need another one now.
Yeah.
So the thing is, just like those are interesting people. People who are like used to change their own oil. You know what I mean? Like when I got a car, my dad was like, oh, you got to change your own oil. I'm like,
what?
Yeah, so you got to drive around the block a couple times, heat up the engine, and then you got to come home, let it drain. You got to go get a filter. It's like the first time I did an oil change, I took the filter. I was like, now what? He's like, where's the new filter? Like, I don't have a new filter. He's like, well, you better put that one back on then and go get yourself a new filter. So the thing is like that, it's kind of like that My Cousin Vinny. Oh, My Cousin Vinny.
Oh, fucking, that's a fucking classic.
Yeah, when she's talking about two Utes.
Two Utes.
But when he's talking about, if you're changing a carburetor and you drop a screw, he's like, you just found out the hard way. But nobody has to find out the hard way anymore. They're like, let me watch a YouTube video on that.
Well, speaking of that, the hard way. So I was out in Colorado. I was dating this lady, and she had a 16-year-old son, got a license in his car. I did the same thing. I said, you got to change the oil. So I had the same exact thing. I said, let it idle. I didn't tell him to ride around the block, but I said, let it idle, heat it up, do all that. Here's this. Yep, do this. Okay, yep, good. Yep, okay. And he puts all the oil in it. And I said, okay, now you got to start it up, make sure you got oil pressure, right? So he fires it up, no oil pressure. And I go, okay, just shut it off. Don't stress about it. Shut it off. Look under the car. And I knew what he didn't do, but I'm like, I ain't gonna tell him. He's gonna fucking learn.
Yeah.
Right? He didn't put the drain plug back in.
Oh, boy.
So all the fucking oil ran right, but he goes, now what? I go, I gotta hike your ass to the store and get 4 more coats of oil.
Yeah.
Can I take your car?
Yeah.
You fuck find your own way.
Yeah. Bike down there.
Yeah, do whatever you gotta do. But that's the thing, man. I used to, he still makes comments to me on Facebook and shit. And that was 25 years
But
ago.
I mean, like, when we were growing up, like, you had to figure shit out. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And it's like now you just have to
Google
YouTube it. Yeah, Google it or YouTube it. Like, how to install ceramic tile. And then you watch 10 videos. You're like, okay, I think I can do it. And they say, and let me tell you the pitfalls you have to avoid, like, make sure all your grooves are even on the trowel. And you're like, oh, okay.
Before he'd be like, shit, now I got to do it all over again.
Yeah, but like the trial and error part of anything is how you get good at it. You know what I mean? And honestly, that's where self-esteem comes from. It's like, I didn't know how to do this, but then I did it a ton of times, and now I'm good at it, and I feel good about myself because I did that. Now it's like, no, you don't have to worry about developing self-esteem. People just want to find the fastest, most efficient way
to do it. Yeah, instantly.
And they're not interested in getting good at it, and that's, but again, going back to talking to, kind of senior citizens and stuff, the stuff that these people are good at is stuff that nobody knows how to do anymore. You know what I mean?
No. Well, that goes to the college and trade school type of thing, too.
For sure.
I'm
a big fan of trade schools, Walt. I feel like
I love it.
There's no better feeling than a day of hard blue collar labor. I swear to God, like
that's what I do every day. Dude.
I know. I'm just saying, like, part of my work is to sometimes be in the field, like doing stuff, carpentry, building, painting, tile work, and like those are the best days because you come home, you're exhausted from a freaking hard day of work, like a true hard day of work. Like sitting at a screen all day is a different kind of hard. It's like hard on your eyes or whatever.
Yeah,
but
it's still taxing, but not.
It's still taxing, but not like physical labor. And you feel like you did something today. Like at the end of the day, this thing that's right here wasn't there this morning. You know what I mean?
Right.
Whereas at the end of a day in the office, your desk still looks exactly the same. Like, what did I do today? Well, I was on emails and conference calls. And,
you were talking about. Sorry, something's got me. Something's wrong here. All right. Talking about camaraderie and meeting people and right. In my job, I travel around, it's a huge company.
Sure.
And I run into people with the company all the time. I don't know who the fuck they are, right?
Right.
The only reason I know their names because they got a name tag.
Right.
Right? But the camaraderie, like I walk into a store or see them out in a lot.
Right.
They drop everything they're doing, come over and fist bump, shake my hand. Hey, how's your day going? Good to see you, brother. What's up? Like we've known each other for 20 fucking years.
Sure.
And it's a good feeling.
Yeah.
And like you said, I am fucking tired, deadbeat tired every day when I come home.
Yeah.
But it feels good.
Yeah, no, I honestly sometimes wish that, everybody had to have like a job where you did halftime in the office and halftime out in the field somewhere.
Yeah.
Because then at least you can see the other side of the coin, right? Because then you won't, be turning your nose up at somebody who works with their hands all day or whatever.
Right.
Because, it takes all types to make the world turn, right?
Yep.
And so, just because somebody sits in an office or a glass skyscraper doesn't mean that they're more important to the cog of society than somebody who puts in pipe all day or whatever.
Or driving a garbage truck.
Everybody's got it.
Dude, that's fucking, fuck that, dude.
God but it's like, guys. We're kind of all in this together, and I think that especially the way media works today, it kind of benefits media to make everybody think they're on opposite ends of the spectrum. But I really feel like, whatever your views are on anything, it takes all of us to keep the globe spinning. And it's just like, unless we start to recognize that on a regular basis, we're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah, you're no better than anybody else.
Yeah.
Everybody, what they're doing is
for sure. And
like
if you think about like a hotel, right? Like, you could stay in the nicest hotel anywhere. Let's just say it's like, whatever, some 5-star hotel. Look at the person who's changing the linens every day. Look at the person who's cooking your breakfast. Look at the person who's checking you in. Just because they don't make a lot of money doesn't mean they're not important to your lifestyle, right? Because they are. They absolutely are. And so that's where I think that, and I'm not trying to say like, oh, we need to shine a light on all these people. I'm just saying, let's just all recognize that a person is a person is a person, and it takes all the people to make everything go.
Work.
All the trains run on time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like that. All the trains.
Yeah.
But let's talk about, there's 2 things I want to hit you up on.
Sure.
Cards.
Cards. Playing cards?
Well, physically playing them, and obviously because you like design them or something. Like, what's the deal with that?
So I have a company, Pocono Modern, and for the way we started it was we were designing homes in the modern houses in the Poconos in Pennsylvania. So we started building these modern houses in Pennsylvania. And then what we wanted to do was we didn't want to just design the houses because the Poconos is a pretty large like second home market. People have vacation homes out there.
Yeah.
So we knew that we would have a better chance of selling them if we put like all the furniture in and all the dishes in the cabinets and all the sheets on the beds. And basically it was completely turnkey. We still do that stuff to this day, but you know, we had to actually say, okay, well, what kind of art we want to put on the wall? And so we started designing art, and we started designing, you know, custom furniture, and we started designing all these things, you know. And then when people would buy the houses with all the art on the walls and this, you know, and all the furniture, they would say, "I wish I had one of these benches for my house." So then we're like, "All right, well, we'll start, you know, building." We built all the furniture out of the scrap wood from building the house. So like if you have like a 10-foot long stud and you only need 8.5 feet, well, you got an 18-inch scrap of wood left. Instead of throwing it in the dumpster, we're like, let's save this wood. We'll make a bench out of it later or something.
Okay.
So we started saving all the wood. We had these giant piles of leftover wood. So we would start building furniture out of it. And people said, "Oh, I want to buy this furniture. I want to buy this art." So we have this amazing creative director, this guy named Joe Morelli, and he actually lives here in Montclair. And he was the one who was designing all the art. And so we started thinking about, well, what else could we design, you know, using all of these really great kind of graphic prints. So at that time, Kickstarter was kind of, you know, peaking. It was a few years back. Like when Kickstarter came out, it seemed like everybody was like, "Oh my gosh,
shit to do." Right,
yeah, it was like it was almost like a search engine. People would go on Kickstarter and be like, "What's cool on here today?"
Yeah.
And one of the categories we saw that was like explosive was playing cards. People were basically designing these custom graphic decks of playing cards, and I'm no joke. They were like raising $130,000 to do a deck of playing cards. Because, you know, for years and years and years, there was like 2 decks, like Bicycle and Bee, and that was it.
Right.
And, you know, and so, you know, the playing card almost became a platform for graphic artists to show how good they were at graphic design. So, you know,
that with the poker boom too, probably, right?
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Yeah. It was all around the same time, right? So, you know, so then you know, all of a sudden, you know, these card collectors, people who collected rare decks of playing cards, and then you had all these like, what are called cardists, these people who do card flourishes, like tricks with the cards, like the, you know, expansive moves and stuff, like
a magician and all
yeah,
that.
like kind of like magician flourishes, but not for the sake of doing magic, just for the sake of visual artistry.
Okay.
So, you know, all of this was happening at the same time, and then there were these 2 guys who started this website where they would actually sell all these really cool decks of cards. And so we thought like, hey man, we should do like a Pocono themed deck of playing cards. And so we designed this deck called the Woodland deck, where the court cards or the Jack, Queen, King are animals. So like the bear is the king, and the deer is the queen, and the jack is a fox.
Oh, okay. Right,
and you know, and so we designed all the cards custom. We designed really cool number cards. We designed the Joker as a raccoon. You know, so it was just a really funky design, and we put it out there, and we raised the money on Kickstarter to produce it, because most of the cards at that time were produced by this company called the U.S. Playing Card Company, which also makes the Bee and the Bicycle decks.
Yeah,
they have that linen finish with the, you know, the matte linen. And it costs, you know, anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000 to get one run of 2,500 decks produced. So you would you know, be trying to raise $5,000 and $10,000. Depending on the details of your tuck case and all this kind of thing.
Sure.
And so we raised the money, and we had the deck produced, and everybody loved it. And we sold out the first printing of 2,500 decks. We actually had to reorder it. So then after that, we kind of got a little cocky, and we're like, hey man, we should do another deck. So we designed a second deck. At that time, Mad Men was really huge, the show.
Great show.
And we loved Mad Men. We just loved that whole mid-century vibe. So we're like, let's design like a kind of deck of cards that like Don Draper would play with, you know. And it was called the Retro deck, and it was kind of really so cool. I still love this deck to this day. But we said we were going to design it in 2 different colorways. So the backs of the cards look the same on both decks. So like if you wanted to mix a light deck and a gray deck, they've mixed. But the faces of the cards, one is colored and one is white. So it was kind of like a set where you could get 2. You could get the gray deck and the white deck, and we sell them in boxes together with like 2 decks together. So if you were playing a game that required double decks, you could mix them.
Right.
But independently, they were different on the faces. So, for example, if you were trying to separate them after the game, you know, it became a whole lot easier. Yeah, so those decks, we did another Kickstarter. We did the first Kickstarter. We didn't raise the money because it was just like, I don't know why, but maybe there was too many decks on the line. But then we did the first deck. The first time we did the Kickstarter, it was only gray, and we didn't meet the goal. Then we said, we need to throw in something a little more spicy. We need to do like a stretch goal. And so we came out with the white deck. And then once we relaunched it with both decks together, we raised, I don't know, $15,000 and we got the decks made. So to this day, we have 3 different decks of cards that we sell on the Pocono Modern website and through Etsy and they're actually on Amazon now too. So if you go on Amazon and you type in Pocono Modern Playing Cards, they're there, but now we're working on a new deck, which is going to be really, really
What's
cool.
the theme on that one?
I can't tell you.
What?
Yeah,
you could just tell me. Nobody.
No, I don't really know. We're in the early stages, and we have a bunch of visioning boards of cool ideas, and we haven't,
you have a general theme or?
The general theme is going to be, I think, old Vegas, right? So we want to design a deck of cards that looks like Frank Sinatra could have played with it in the 50s.
Oh, I'm a huge fan of that.
Yeah. So that's kind of the theme. Some of the most popular decks of cards are from that era. People collect these really old decks of cards from casinos, like Vegas casinos. Yeah. And there's so that's kind of the theme right now, and we're also talking to a magician that we know about maybe collaborating on the deck because he's a huge cardist and he has a huge collection and he has an account where he promotes different decks, and so we feel like if we can kind of tag on to somebody who has a bit of influence in the field, it'll also help promote the deck. So we're trying to be smart about it and probably do another Kickstarter, but we also have. One of the other things that I know I've talked to you about in the past is I was at I think it was a garage sale or a yard sale probably like 15 years ago. And I saw somebody selling a box of 35 millimeter slides.
Oh, yeah. I want to hear about this.
Yeah. So I was at a garage sale and somebody was selling a box of they're like maybe 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. And you used to put them in a slide projector, and the slide projector had a carousel, and the carousel would go around. So I saw somebody selling these slides, and I was like, wait a minute, why would somebody be selling basically like old family photos is what they are, because people before, you could develop film at like the CVS in an hour. People used to actually buy slide film, and then they would get the film developed into these little slides, and then they would look at the slides with their family in a slide projector.
And that's hang a sheet on the thing on the wall or whatever.
Yeah, hang a sheet on the wall and turn the lights out and show the slides. So I was like, why would somebody be selling all their family photos on these? First of all, like, who's going to want their family photos? Why would I want, So I was just so curious as to what the heck was on these freaking slides. I was like, I'm going to buy this box of slides. So I bought the box.
How much was it?
It was like $20. And I got I want to say I got like 3,000 slides.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was like, but I didn't have a slide projector, right? So I would basically use a flashlight and I would shine light through it. And, and what I found was a lot of the pictures had people in it. And those were cool because, look at the sweater she's wearing, or look at that skirt, or look at that suit, look at that tie.
Like from the 70s
like a time
and
capsule,
shit, right?
For sure. But it also had shots of old cars and shots of kids playing baseball. And it was like this amazing time capsule of Americana. Okay. And I was just like, man, some of these photos are really, really cool. And I got kind of addicted to looking at old slides. So, but the other thing is the quality of the photo compared to what we have today with digital camera photography. Sure. It's really terrible, right? Lots of scratches.
Yeah, but that's part of it, though.
It's part of it, but it's also you don't constantly want to be looking at images that have scratches and dust and speckles.
Okay,
and,
all right.
Especially because today we're so attuned to the fidelity of really good photography.
Unless you put a filter on it.
Yeah, 1 or 2 old photos that's fun to watch, fun to look at. 800 old photos, you get tired.
Right.
So, as we were looking at it, I said, these are really cool images. Too bad they're so low quality. So, we're like, well, what if we, brought it into Photoshop and did some retouching work and stuff like that. So again, this guy Joe and I kind of set about it to figure out how we could, turn these things into the best possible quality.
Okay, but at this point, what was your plan with them?
I just wanted to see if we could get a good image that we could print out as a photo and it would look cool hanging on the wall. Because originally when I had this idea, I was like, we do a lot of hotel design. It would be cool to use old photos as like art in a space, right?
Okay, so that would be really cool.
So we did. Yep. So the first time we tried this, we were doing a restaurant in Hilton Head in South Carolina, and it was a waterfront kind of restaurant, beachfront. And we're like, wouldn't it be cool if we could use the photos as like artwork in the restaurant, where it's like all old photos of people at the beach? And so, right. We said, let's see if we can amass, 20 photos and then retouch them all and fix them up. And we did it. And some of like people come into the space and they're like, whoa, these are cool old photos. Where'd you get these? But they're really actual authentic photos, No, but so what happened was we wanted to see if we could get them to be good enough quality where we could use them in our work as like artwork.
Oh, okay. All right.
And so that was the original intent. And, it took us probably 3 years to figure out a workflow that we were able to bring the quality back in some of these images. I mean, you have to start out, first of all, with an image that's clear. Mm-hmm. But after clear, as long as it's clear, you can then, work it in the computer to get it, where you need it to be. So
out of focus, it's gone.
Out of focus is nobody wants to see an out of focus photo unless it like is so out of focus it looks like abstract art. Right. So then so we it took us 2 or 3 years to get this workflow down. And at first we were using this particular slide scanner. I think it was called a Wolverine slide scanner, where it's maybe it's not that expensive. It's like maybe $100. But we realized like, this is only really producing an image that's 4 megabytes. It's not super high res.
Well, then you can't blow it up.
You can't blow it up big, right? So then we're like, we really need to throw down some money on a super high res slide scanner. I don't know the name of the one we have now, but after it scans the image, it's like, I don't know, it's huge. It's like 100 megabytes. Ooh. It's a TIFF file. And it's super, super high res. So, so once you have this high res TIFF, you can use a piece of software like Adobe Lightroom and bring it in there, and that's got a lot of tools options to really bring stuff back. Anyway, we've got the workflow down, but now, because we got so addicted to looking at these slides, we actually started this collection that we call Other People's Memories. So now we take the best ones and we sell them as like photographic prints. And we don't give the best ones to like, our projects. We save the best ones for ourselves. And some of the images are just amazing, like things that you would never be able to even recreate today. There's like pictures of people in old cars that don't exist anymore, like feeding bears, like right at their window, like all weird and wacky stuff. There's amazing photos of places that no longer exist. Like we have one of, Reno, Nevada, like back in the 50s. Like it just, oh my gosh, it's so amazing. We have a lot of great landscapes. We have, old Chevy trucks pulling Airstream trailers in the Grand Canyon.
That would be cool to see.
It's amazing.
So you got any poker themes one that would look good right here on this wall?
Yeah, I'll see what I can dig up for you for sure. Cards. But now we still use some of the old photos for like artwork and restaurant projects and things like that. But for the most part, we're building this massive collection of other people's memories, and ultimately we're going to have a like an art exhibition where we take the best ones and we blow them up and we kind of sell them as as art. But the other cool thing that we've just started doing, and this is brand new, nobody knows about this, it's like the world premiere on your podcast here.
Nice.
We're actually taking the coolest of the cool images and having them made into jigsaw puzzles. Because if you've ever tried to buy a jigsaw puzzle,
don't fucking tell my wife, dude.
They're always like fairly cheesy landscapes or fairly cheesy flowery photo. Like there's like no really cool jigsaw puzzles, or at least that's what we feel like, because one of the big traditions in Jersey,
it's all like classic art and cheesy,
one of the big traditions in Jersey is people go to the Jersey Shore every summer, right? And what do you do in the Jersey Shore on a rainy day? You do jigsaw puzzles, right? So
or play Skippo.
What's that?
It's a card game.
But my wife grew up going to the Jersey Shore, and like jigsaw puzzles were part of the summer. Like that's what you did. But when you go to buy a jigsaw puzzle, you're either buying one at like the Dollar General that's like pretty terrible, or you're like spending money on a museum one that's, like you said, a work of art or something. Yeah. But these are just such cool images. Like we have one of a Ferris wheel that is at night, where it's just literally the lights from the Ferris wheel against black. And like the Ferris wheel has so many lights that are all the same, just like red, yellow, green, that like putting this puzzle together is going to be challenging because
Oh,
it's
very
just
cool.
like black
Very cool.
and neon lights and that's it. And it's a beautiful silhouette, but like we wanted to bring something to the jigsaw because we had this games division that made the playing cards and other stuff
Oh, I
like
see.
that.
They could easily. It's so easy for them to create jigsaw puzzles.
Well, yeah, it's just
Yeah.
automated machinery,
Yeah,
but the thing was, we wanted to kind of expand this games division into other cool
That would be
stuff
cool.
too.
Yeah.
So we're launching these. We're launching 3 jigsaw puzzles this year. One
Now,
is
are they color, black and white?
they're color. Yeah, one is
jigsaw
the
puzzle would be
Reno,
color.
Nevada, 50s skyline. I was just telling you about.
Okay.
One is these these women swimming in a pool in bathing caps in like 1950, which is just a beautiful picture. And then
The Ferris wheel.
yeah, it's kind of like and the other one's a Ferris wheel. Yeah, so those 3, and we're gonna probably do a Kickstarter to try to get the word out, garner support, and offset some of the startup costs for it because we think there's a lot of gamers out there who would be totally down with what we're doing.
Yeah, yeah.
But we don't want to also be yelling into a vacuum either. We want to make sure that there's people out there that would be.
I think I like the idea that you narrow down the niche to, using the Jersey Shore for an example.
Yeah.
And you could take that and say all the campgrounds and stuff like in
Sure.
the Adirondacks, same
Yeah.
type of thing, right?
But also, I think part of it is what we were talking about before. Like, we want to do stuff that also promotes social behavior, right? Like
sit around,
human
put
to
a-
human activity, right?
yeah,
So it's like, we're not a tech company. We make cool stuff and we make houses, but what we do is really we're like a lifestyle company. We want to foster a certain level of lifestyle where it's actually about people coming together to do stuff that's fun. And then and those conversations led to other things too. Like we're opening a restaurant in Chester, where it's basically like comfort food, but the dining room, you're not allowed to have electronics in the dining room. So if you want to eat there, no iPads, no iPhones, no tablets, no hanging out on your laptop for 2 hours. It's literally just people coming together, having a conversation. We're going to have game nights. We have like a 6 foot by 6 foot Scrabble board on the wall. We're going to have like Scrabble nights. And it's literally all about, you'll appreciate this, like being the kitchen table of the neighborhood where people come, to get together, have fun, meet in person.
Now,
do
will you
things.
design? Obviously, you're going to design the layout of it to where bigger tables. And,
Oh yeah, it's done.
Yeah.
I mean, the restaurant's done. It opens in a few weeks. So,
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So,
what's the name of it?
It's called Pren, Pren. Pren Kitchen. It's in Chester, and it's going to be opening probably right before or right after Labor Day.
What's when you say comfort food? Give me an
So
idea.
it's
of
grass-fed burgers, pulled pork, homemade baked
Okay.
macaroni and cheese.
Okay. Alcohol.
No BYO.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you bring it, you can.
Yeah. Well, no. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
didn't-
So it's all made from scratch stuff, the kind of stuff you'd see on diners, drive-ins, and dives, where people are just putting a lot of energy into making really great food. We have a good friend of mine owns a pasture-raised butcher shop called the Pastoral Pig. He's going to supply a lot of our meat, so it's like super high-end meat. So if you know how when you're eating like super clean, super healthy, you have to eat all grass-fed stuff.
Oh yeah.
So
That's
his
it. I
stuff,
got like 4 pounds of grass-fed beef in the refrigerator.
yeah, his stuff is the best of the best. I mean, the same meat that he sells is sold to like Michelin star restaurants in the city. So,
Oh, okay.
So he's going to be supplying a lot of the meat, all the meat. I mean, his chicken is unbelievable. So we'll do like buttermilk fried chicken, and we'll do amazing salads and just stuff that is kind of it's amazingly tasty, but it's also because of the purity of the product. It's
No, you
also
start
not
good,
bad for you.
Start good and good.
Yeah, start good and good, exactly.
Yeah.
So that opens in a few weeks' time, and we'll have you out for the soft opening for
Yeah,
sure.
dude. Yeah.
So we're super excited about that, but we know for a fact that some people are going to be pissed that they can't use their phone while they're eating.
Fuck 'em.
Yeah, it can't be everything
Hey,
to
go down
everybody.
to Denny's, man.
Yeah, it can't be everything to everybody.
No.
So yeah, but but back to the Pocono Modern thing. I mean, we just really want to do cool things that bring people together. Whether it's the hotels we're designing, or restaurants, or like making products, or making houses, we really just want people to like come together and reconnect. Because I know for me, and you don't. If you ever have kids, it's really funny because you end up only hanging out with the parents of the kids your
kids.
kids are friends with.
Right.
And you kind of lose all identity. You become so-and-so's dad or so-and-so's mom.
Sure.
And almost like, in society, I mean, when I was growing up, there would always be somebody over our house, like a neighbor or somebody. They would just like come over, just wouldn't even knock on the door, just walk in and go, hey, and people would just come over and people were more connected.
Well, growing up.
Nowadays, if somebody knocks on your door, you kind of hide under the sofa, like, who's that? Who's that? This is unusual.
Why didn't you text me that you weren't coming?
Yeah. It's, people aren't, their default is not to be socially open. You know what I mean? Their default is to have your guard up and be like, what does this person want?
Yeah.
And so for me, I've always found like you could go to a Michelin star restaurant and have a meal, and it's a good meal, obviously, like it's not going to be bad. But you could go to a really shitty restaurant and be with the right people and have the best meal of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally
because
agree with
really
that.
what it's about, it's about the other people at the table that are making the meal amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah,
it almost has nothing to, the food's got to be edible, but my point is,
it's who you're with, right?
It's who you're with, right? So the thing is, what we're trying to do in everything I do is really just trying to connect people and show people, hey man, just come out of the house one night, we don't have to binge watch the whole season of this or that tonight. Like, let's come out and we'll do something.
Yeah.
And and the thing is that I think we need to do more of that and get people out of the house and reconnect and reestablish the whole social animal idea, And the thing is, like, you don't have to always agree with the people you hang out with,
No, absolutely not.
Like, you can have a productive discussion and completely disagree and leave disagreeing, but you could at least hear some new ideas and open up your mind a little bit.
Absolutely, yeah.
And say, you know what, I still don't believe in what that person's pushing, but at least I know how they arrived at that conclusion.
Yeah.
And, you get, and that's how you kind of get to know people, because to me, that's what makes life interesting, is doing things that make you uncomfortable sometimes,
Absolutely.
It's like if you go to the gym and you work out really hard, but you don't feel anything the next day, chances are you're not really growing,
Yep.
But if you push yourself and the next day you can't move, you're like, oh, I know this did something. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you can't grow without discomfort most of the time. And you have to do things that make you uncomfortable, and you have to do things that you're going to mess up and screw up at, but that's how you get better. You know what I mean?
Yeah, don't be afraid to just crash and burn or get punched, unquote,
sure.
Get punched in the face.
I think that's like something people try to avoid nowadays. Like, they don't want to mess it up. They're like afraid to mess it up. And it's just like,
well, it's like when I started this thing. People are like, did you take all these classes? Did you do all this? Fuck no, I didn't. I bought a bunch of stuff and started yelling in this thing.
That's awesome, man.
That's it.
But what's funny is, like, kids aren't afraid to mess up, right? So it's like no kid ever, like
falling down on a bike.
But like a kid like that draws a picture is like, check out my picture. They're not like, oh shit, this sucks,
Right.
It's,
I should re-edit that and redo it. And now they're like,
this is the best thing you've ever seen, isn't it? Like kids will stop you and be like, check out this twirl I invented, and then they'll just do something completely ordinary and boring, and in your mind you're going, there's absolutely nothing special about that whatsoever.
Yeah.
But they think it's the best thing ever, and you're like, hey man, hey, good job,
Yeah. And where do you think we lose that along the way?
Well, I kind of know where we lose it. We lose it, I think, through the academic process, when we're made to believe that there's a right answer and a wrong answer to everything, right? There's a great TED Talk by this guy, Ken Robinson, about that. It's called Education Kills Creativity.
I agree.
The thing is, when you're taught to think that there's only one way to do something or one right answer, then every other way becomes wrong, right? And when you're
that's not a perfect picture anymore.
Yeah, when you're not willing to explore all the wrong answers, when you just want to find the fastest way to the right one, that's when people stop trying to be creative.
So what happens if Thomas Edison had a YouTube video how to make a light bulb?
Yeah.
Right?
1,000 tries,
Right.
But I think, when you hear all these amazing, I don't know if you listen to this podcast called How I Built This. It's basically
once in a while, yeah.
It's the origin story of all the greatest, coolest companies you ever heard. They interview all the founders and the entrepreneurs who started them. But half the time, the company was only created because they messed up what they were originally trying to do.
Right,
or they were trying to solve.
Well, look at Amazon.
Yeah,
look at how that was created.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But half the time they're trying to make this one thing, and the byproduct of the thing they're making is this whole other thing, right? And then it's the other thing that ends up being the thing, right?
Well, that's how the microwave was invented.
Sure.
It was a mistake.
Right.
They were messing around with waves and all that, and all of a sudden one of the scientists, a candy bar melted in his pocket. And boop, microwave.
I mean, half the drugs that hit the market were originally developed for some other thing they were trying to cure, and they realized in the act of trying to cure that, it actually does this other thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and then, all right, time to remarket it, you know. But yeah, those happy accidents are how, you know, but unless you're open to the possibility of failing and not getting it right, you're never really going to learn anything new.
But too, you could back that, or you can reverse engineer that a little bit. And I believe, me personally, that you can't insult me.
Right.
I insult myself.
Sure.
What's her name?
Eleanor Roosevelt.
Great quote, right?
Yeah.
I'll butcher it, but it's like nobody can insult you without your permission.
Sure.
Something like that, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But if you're okay with, if you understand that to its core, you can go out, fail all day long, and not think none of it.
Right.
Here, okay, next. Okay, that didn't work. Okay, that didn't work.
I like this one. There's a quote that says, you know, what you think of me is none of my business. Right.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. So that's like, you know, you can't give other people control over you by allowing yourself to be influenced by what they think of you.
Right.
Like, you just got to go out and do it. Because, like, again, back to kids, like, they don't care, you know. They'll look dumb as shit doing something. They don't even care.
Shit. Right.
You know, and it's only when somebody else says, "Oh, you look stupid," then they start to think, well, I don't really want to look stupid, so I better stop that.
doing that, right.
You know, and I'm not saying we should completely, like, you know, sterilize the entire childhood experience, because I do think
you learn from all angles of that.
But I do think there's something to be learned by encouraging younger people, especially, to just live life the way it makes sense to you. Don't worry about what anybody else thinks. Right? Because, you know, because that's when people figure out, this is what I want to do, right? I can't tell you the number of 20-something people I know, people who are in their late 20s, early 30s, they have no clue what they want to do with their life. They went to college, they had to pick a major, they did this, they did that. They get to be like 28 and 29, and they're like, you know, maybe I don't want to do this the rest of my life. Maybe I want to be a writer. Maybe I want to be an actor. Maybe I want to go study law. Maybe I want to go back to school and be a pre-med. Like, they don't know. And I think the reason that they don't know, this is just my theory on it, is because when they were younger and they were so in tune with what they wanted to do, what they wanted to do was completely crushed for what somebody else thought they should do.
Well, no, it's the go to high school.
Yeah.
Play sports, do something, whatever, you know, music, whatever your thing is. Get good grades, go to college, get a job, get a family, get a house, get a mortgage, you know, and it's like, and if I don't do that, what's wrong with you?
Right.
And it's like, there's fucking ain't nothing wrong with me. I just don't want to do that.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, so, no, and I think that's what's
and
great.
That's changing. Going back to the we live thing.
Yeah.
That's changing.
Yeah.
You see that.
Yeah, I actually had somebody who worked with us recently who, you know, told me that she wanted to be a digital nomad. And when I first heard it, I was like,
the hell is that?
I don't even know what that is. What does that mean? She basically said, I want to work remotely around the world, you know? So it's like, it'd be great if I could work with you, but it'd be all even better if I could work for you remotely and just like travel all over the world while I work for you. And I said, you know, that sounds awesome, but I don't know that would work for me, because what we do is highly collaborative, and I think we kind of need you in the office to be able to work on teams and collaborate with people.
Sure.
But I told her, I said, absolutely pursue that 100%. You know, and she was only with us for a short period of time because we hired her for a specific project. But you know, when she left, I said, hey, I hope you find that. You know, I hope you find that
sounds
position
cool.
that allows. Yeah, it sounds amazing, but I wouldn't even have been as bold when I was younger to even be pursuing something like that. I would be like, oh man, my mom would never go for that. You know what I mean? Like I would have to tell my mom, hey mom, I'm not really going to have a regular job. I'm just going to travel around the world and live out of a suitcase and work remotely doing, you know, whatever I'm doing. And my mom would have just been so, I don't want to say unsupportive, but it would have been so foreign to her. She would have probably been calling me every single day to check up on me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
See, my mom was the other way.
Yeah.
See ya.
Yeah.
Good luck. But in a loving way.
Yeah, no, for sure.
My parents were, and I got a quote that my dad said all the time growing up, and I'll tell you a second about, well, my mom, both my parents, they're like, the world's a big place. Go fucking see it.
Right.
You know, so they're supportive that way. But a quote my dad said all the time growing up, he still says it to this day, and it took me a long time to really know the true meaning, is do half as much, twice as good.
Yeah.
Instead of doing...
That's 15, a good bit of wisdom right there.
Yeah, instead of doing 15 things, do 3 or 4 things and do it fucking really good.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, no, I agree. And, it's just, but what I'm saying, what I think is true today is that younger people are not afraid to create the life that they want to have instead of, like if you're a square peg in a round hole, they're not afraid to say, I'm going to make my own hole, that's my shape. And, and you see it today with all the issues that are in the news, like, whatever, gender identity, for example. I mean, I'm sure that people have been being born the same way for thousands of years.
But now all of a sudden...
now they're, fortunately, they're courageous enough to say, this is how I want to be treated. This is how I want to be referred to. This is how, what? And that's, that's super enlightening, I think, just to be able to even understand what somebody goes through who doesn't feel like they're in the right body or doesn't feel
I can't even comprehend that.
I can't comprehend it. Right. But I mean, I think it's a product of the boldness of the generations that are coming up now to say, you know what, I'm not going to fit into your box. I'm going to create my own little box over here. Yeah. And I think it's great. And I think that, I don't understand it personally because I just haven't had to go through that personally. But that doesn't mean I can't be empathetic and try and be supportive for people who are going through that.
And acknowledge the courage that it takes to do that.
Yeah, I remember watching that, I think it was Diane Sawyer interview with Caitlyn Jenner. Did you watch that when it happened?
No.
Yeah, so it was like it was going to be this big reveal, right? It was like nobody knew who was going to turn up to the interview, that it was just going to be this like big story.
Okay.
And I remember watching it just like I didn't even know what to think. I honestly, when I watched it, I didn't understand. Like, what is happening? Like, I don't understand this. And I was trying to understand it. I was trying to understand what she was saying and, how she felt. But at the time, like, she was really the first super high profile celebrity to come out and say that they were going through this. And then since then, I think what she did was she empowered a lot of other people.
She plowed the road.
Yeah, she plowed the road.
Absolutely.
And now at least you can have a conversation with somebody about it and express that, I don't know, but I'm trying to learn, understand. Whereas before, like, you couldn't even scratch the surface of a conversation about it because you couldn't have any frame of reference. There was no context, right? But this and a bunch of other ideas, when people say like, oh, I want to colonize the Mars. Well, that seemed crazy as hell until a couple years ago. Like,
even you talk about Airbnb. The example I like to use is Uber.
Yeah.
What 5 years ago? No, maybe 10. I don't know. I lose. Time's relevant, right?
Some not too long time ago.
Yeah, but it would have been fucking crazy if you said, you know what, on your phone you're going to hit an app, and some stranger is going to pull up to your house and you're going to get in his car,
right,
and he's going to take you where you want to go.
Right.
What the fuck?
Right.
But now it's like boop 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 boop. It's no big deal, right?
Well, I read this interview where I think Elon Musk was trying to say, okay, if you want to fly from the U.S. to China, we're going to put you in a rocket, shoot you straight up, and the rocket's going to come down in China. Whole thing will take a half hour. That just sounds crazy, right?
Yeah, but...
Until he landed a rocket on like a 12 by 12 pad of metal in the middle of the ocean, you're like, what the like,
fuck? Yeah.
It's like, maybe this dude is not as crazy as we thought. And then he's like, oh, I'm building tunnels under LA. I'm going to make my own little super tunnel. I'm just like, man, good for that guy, because like, honestly, that sounds like some evil genius stuff. You know what I mean? Like some mad villain stuff. Like somebody's tunneling a big tunnel under LA to run some supercharger experiment.
$1 billion,
yeah.
right? Captain.
But it's like, I love it. I love people who just are batshit out of their mind. Like, we're going to try this, see what happens.
Yeah. And plow forward and don't even think nothing of it.
I mean, could you ever even imagine that somebody would have a car that runs on batteries that can go from here to Boston without stopping, and all on one charge.
And 0 to 60.
And that it would be one of the fastest cars on the planet. You'd be like, what? This sounds like some sci-fi stuff,
whatever, dude. Yeah.
And now what they're doing with 3D printers where it's like, oh, you want a new watch? We can print one for you, bro. Like,
yeah. Well, no, they're printing, they have a heart.
Yeah, organs, yeah.
Organ, they have a heart. I think they can get it to beat and like pull in blood or pump blood, but it can't do both yet.
Right.
But how long is it going to take for them to figure it out? Shit, they'll have that in 6 months.
There's the woman who invented Sirius XM radio. You got to listen to the interview with her. There's a Tony Robbins podcast with this woman. I want to say her name is Martine something or other. You won't even believe this story. It doesn't even sound real when you listen to it.
How she invented
No, the Sirius XM is the tamest part of it.
okay.
I'm going to paraphrase, but she invented Sirius XM. Nobody thought she could do it. Like, oh, you're going to beam radio signals off of satellites and, whatever. So everyone said no. She did it. Great. Then her daughter contracted some rare disease, and, all the doctors said they don't have medicine for this because so few people get afflicted with it.
Right.
There's no money in developing a medication for it. So she's like, forget that. I'm going to figure it out. She went and did all this research, hired this team of medical scientists, and she developed a drug for this thing nobody said could be cured, and she freaking cured her own daughter.
Holy shit.
Then she was doing all this work in the medical field. She started a biotech company to deal with this, and then she was like, she's really concerned with the environment. So she's like, you know what a big problem is like, when people have organ donors, they have to fly these organs all over the world in an airplane. She's like, wouldn't it be great if we could invent electric helicopters to just,
like a drone?
Yeah, like a drone, like remote control something 100 miles to get the organ there in a timely fashion.
Amazon's trying to do that with my toilet paper, dude.
So she's working. She's basically investing in this technology where now they can have like radio controlled helicopters that could drone organs across the country. Then she's working on. Then there's this problem with donor organs where half the time they're rejected by the recipient body because everything doesn't match up perfect. So now she's like, she's growing organs. Human organs in labs that have like a 95% acceptance rate. This
just kind of like a general organ, right? It doesn't
different organs. I think lungs she's starting with because her daughter has a particular lung
okay.
affliction.
Okay.
So she started with lungs, and like now she's like they're growing organs that have a 95% acceptance rate. So like there's nothing this person can't do. It's insane.
Awesome.
You have to listen to the story. But 10 years ago, 20 years ago, you get somebody who's saying this stuff, you're like, no way, this is crazy. This is some evil. Like the end of the world is coming,
Right, yeah.
Sci-fi stuff. But now, like literally anything is possible.
Well,
you just have to look at it from a different angle.
An earlier episode of my podcast, I had a live organ donor on.
Nice.
Gave a kidney to a complete stranger.
Well, it'd be hard to have a dead one on, don't you think?
Well, that's true. But and she walked through that process of the myth that if you say you're an organ donor, the ambulance driver's like, oh man, I'm part of the black market, so I'm gonna let this guy die because I can get $10,000 for his kidney or whatever. She's like, I found out that that's a bunch of shit. We talk about that, but she talked about how organs get kicked out and why and stuff like that. It's really interesting.
Yeah, in fact, the percentage of organs that actually make it into a host body is like infinitesimally small.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Because either they can't get them there fast enough, or, it's not a match perfectly, or, they just have or they wait too long because the person's already been, dead for so long. It's just like, it's sad that if there's some way to get this thing where it needs to go, it just doesn't happen quickly enough, or it doesn't happen with the right amount of technology. And that's one of the things this lady was talking about, was basically how do we solve that problem? And
well, what's going to happen is like a hospital, big hospitals are going to have that stuff in a freezer in the basement.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think it's not going to be too long before you're going to turn up to a hospital. They're going to say your kidney's bad. And they'll be like, all right, we're just going to go over here and
get you one.
3D print you one.
Yeah.
And we'll be back in an hour. Don't worry about it. You'll be all right.
Yeah, we're going to put you on dialysis, and tomorrow
it's literally going to be like the, the $6 million man stuff.
No.
The Bionic Man guy.
No, there's another movie that's even better about that. Jude Law.
Oh, yeah, where they're like these contracts.
Repo Man.
Yeah, Repo Man.
Yeah. Where the company makes
that's
these
a good
organs.
Movie. That's a good movie.
I don't think that's too far off, man.
Yeah, I think all of our society is being informed by sci-fi movies from like 30 years ago, because everything that like happens now, I was like, wait a minute, there was a movie about this.
Yeah, didn't they talk
like,
about
did you ever see Minority Report with Tom Cruise?
I love that. Oh,
where
man.
there's like pre-crime with the VR and all the like touch screens, and then it's like when Google Glass came out. When Google Glass came out, where you could look through the glass and just be moving stuff with your hand, I was like, well, this is like Minority Report. This is legit.
I tried watching that not too long ago.
No, it doesn't hold up.
No, it doesn't hold up. Not like Harley Davidson, the Marlboro.
No,
Man.
not like Harley. Harley's a timeless classic.
Oh my God, dude! What I want to do is when you get your puzzle.
Yeah,
I'd like to get the Vegas one.
Yeah. Oh, the decks. The
No,
cards.
no, the actual puzzle.
Oh, the Reno one?
The Reno.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because my wife loves to put puzzles together, and I think
send
that,
you one,
hey,
bro.
dude, I think it would look good right now. Dude.
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah,
saying.
a lot of people. I'll get. You know what I'll do is I'll get you a photographic print of the Reno shot, and we'll hang it right there.
Perfect.
For sure.
Love it.
It's an amazing, amazing photograph.
Love it.
We
And
actually have some old Vegas photos if you want. Of
Yeah, let me look at them.
yeah,
You got somewhere I can look at them and.
yeah, you could probably go to our website. Well, I don't know if the Vegas ones are on. Maybe there's one Vegas one on there, but we have Times Square from the 50s. We have Vegas from the 50s. We have Reno. It's a bunch of cool ones on there.
I'll take a look at those.
Check out
That'd
the
be cool.
website, bro.
Are you going to play cards anytime soon or what?
Yeah, I just played cards with you a couple weeks
Yeah.
ago.
You got anything else on the calendar?
For cards?
Yeah. Do you play often? Like, do you go around and play often? Or?
No, I only play with you pretty much.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
That was a brutal night for me, man. I couldn't get. Oh my God, I was so fucking card dead.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, you're just in that territory where you just got to go all in every time you got a hand.
Yeah,
you
you were
know?
doing that for a while.
Because, like, what do I got? 2 rounds of blinds? Like, what am I gonna do?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, no, and the thing is, though, I wasn't getting any cards. I was getting shit cards, and everybody was betting in front of me. I'm like, okay, y'all got good cards.
Yeah.
Maybe my 9-3 will hold up because it's about the best I've been seeing.
If
for
you're
the last
down to
10
4
hands.
blinds and you get ace jack suited, you got to go all in.
That worked out well for you.
No,
didn't
it did not work.
Oh,
out
is
at
that the
all.
one you?
I lost. That's
Was
what I
it-
lost on.
Is that what you lost?
Yeah,
Okay.
I
know
lost to
that
like
you-
a pair of 9s or something.
I know that you.
I did double
well
up
for a
twice
while.
before that. Yeah. I did double up
I
twice.
thought maybe
but
that was one.
No, but at the end of the day, it's it's like there's different levels of game. I think that game you get kind of like just beyond amateur, but not quite pro. It's just some people know what they're doing, but I just go for the fun. It's just a good time.
Well,
to
and it's the whole
mix
social
it together.
thing.
For sure. Yeah, it's just fun.
Man, it's a great group of people.
Oh yeah, really
Yeah,
cool people. So and I hadn't seen Pam in a really long time. So
Yep.
it was good to see her.
There's one, Fair Lawn. You far from there? I don't know.
Fairlawn doesn't ring a bell.
They play once a month.
Is that in Bergen County, Fairlawn?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I'd have to look it up. But
I don't know. You know what? There's I have a friend who lives in East Rutherford. They're like high school wrestling or high school football. They do a legit like charity event.
Okay.
And they get this guy named Mike's Poker.
Yep.
And they have like professional dealers and
that's
real
cool.
tables. And it's like, I think like 80, 90 people turn up.
Nice.
And so they usually get like 10 tables of people. And you
Cool.
pay, works the same way, but like,
All the money
I've
goes
made
to
it to the
charity.
final table a couple times in those tournaments. Mostly what I do is I just sit back and watch everybody knock
Well,
each
I was
other
going to
out.
say, just let everybody cannibalize
yeah.
themselves.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
In those, that's the best way to do
Yeah,
it.
unless you literally have pocket aces or something,
Yeah,
or something
yeah.
really good, or it's like really cheap to stay in, and then the flop is like, oh, I just got 3 4s. You know?
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah. So I do play in those tournaments occasionally.
Anytime you hear those, hit me
Oh,
up.
I'll let you know,
Yeah,
for sure,
absolutely.
yeah.
I enjoy playing.
My
plus
friend
if it goes
Ernie's
to
always
it.
telling me about those. I'll definitely hit you up next time he hits me up.
But once a month they play in Fair Lawn.
Mm-hmm.
$50. Mm-hmm. Super good game.
We just got to figure out where Fairlawn is.
Yeah.
Jersey's like that. It's just like got
fucking-
thousands of cities.
Yeah.
That, some weird ass names. Like Ho-Hocus.
Oh, dude,
I don't
a
even
couple
know where
years ago-
Ho-Hocus is. I just saw it. Like I mailed something to somebody in Ho-Hocus. I'm like,
What the fuck?
I think it's next to Paramus.
It's up that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, when with the video company, somebody's like, "Yeah, this is where I'm at." I'm like, "Seriously? What city you in?" She's
Yeah.
like, "Ho-Hocus." I'm like, "No,
Does
really."
Santa live there? Like,
yeah,
what the
yeah,
hell?
yeah. What the hell? But super good game.
Yeah.
Great company. $50. You're there for a couple hours. You know,
Yeah.
quick blinds.
Yeah.
If you want, I'll let you know when it hits next. It's the last Thursday of every month.
All right. Yeah. Let me
Yeah,
know.
I'll hit you up.
I mean, we're going to be open in the restaurant soon, so
Yeah, you definitely
gotta
have
get
to let me
that
know when
done.
that's open.
Oh yeah.
My
I'll let
wife
everybody know.
will-
You'll know.
Yeah, we'll enjoy the hell out of that.
Yeah, it's a good little spot. It's a small place. It's 40 seats. Everything scratch made. Amazing desserts. We have an incredible head baker. She's just like off the charts amazing. Like I'm talking like fine dining quality, but in a casual setting.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's going to be great, and I'm super excited about it, and it's going to be something that I think once we get this one dialed in, we probably could think about like doing a second location or a third location because we spent so much. We took a year and a half to get this restaurant open.
Oh.
So we signed the lease last April, and we're not opening until pretty much September. So
there's a little red there.
no, I think it's fine. I think and this is again, I think culturally, everybody's in such a freaking rush.
But
I need this yesterday. I got it. And it's like, no. Let's just budget to take our time, do it right. Like you said, half as much, twice as good, right? So we just budgeted for it. And it's like, I would rather be paying the rent, I would rather be paying the rent and just the rent versus opening up too fast and losing 20 grand a month,
Exactly.
So the thing is, that's what we did. We just took our time, did it right, thought about what the menu should be, thought about how it's all going to be prepared and the service model and the decor and the actual branding and menu design and, how the kitchen should be laid out. And we just took our time and doing that goes against every developer principle that anybody would ever tell you. You got to be fast. You got to be first to market. You got to be this. You got to be that. But we were just like, no, we're just going to make it truly authentic to us. And we're going to build the kind of place we would want to go to. And, and when we have to decide on something, we would just ask that question. Well, is this the kind of thing we would want to see in the place we would want to go to or not?
Right.
And
if you like it, there's got to be 100 more people that like it.
Yeah. And when we first started, like one of the very first things is like, we're not going to have phones in the dining room. And everybody was like, and we're like, no, because just hear me out one second. Let's imagine you have 2 little kids, right? Or 5 little kids or 1 little kid. And you spent most of your time tending after these kids, right? And so you decide on one night, you're going to go out, you're going to get somebody to hang with the kids, right? You're going to spend a ridiculous amount of money on someone to watch your kid for 4 hours, right?
Yeah, sure.
Because you want to feel safe. And then, you go get a bottle of wine and you go to a nice BYO place that has good food and you sit down and you're like trying to have a conversation and just connect with the person that you pass in the night every night. And then all you're focused on, but all you can focus on is the kid sitting 4 feet away from you watching an animated cartoon on his tablet.
Yeah.
And every time you're trying to talk, it goes boing, 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 whatever those Nickelodeon effects are. And it's just like, you're like, I'm spending $100 on a sitter so I can sit here next to a kid who's going nuts.
I could do that at home with my kid.
I could do that at home with my, so it's just like, no, this is about a place where you come to reconnect with other people.
So you're going to have live music?
I don't know. We haven't. It's not a big space, Walt. It's
okay.
30 some odd seats.
I'm gonna throw a shameless plug out.
Yeah.
My wife and her friend. He plays the Northumbrian bagpipes.
Wow, this place is too small for bagpipes.
No. They're small and they're made to play indoors.
Oh, okay.
And she plays the clarinet.
Nice.
And they go very well together.
That sounds like an interesting act, man. I'd love to hear it.
Dude, throw that in there.
We haven't thought about that per se because we're just focused so much. I mean, it's not a big space. There's no room really for a stage. It's like, your apartment is actually bigger than the dining room.
Oh, no shit, huh?
Yeah,
That's kind of cool, though.
Yeah. It's a really small, intimate space, and we want it to be small and intimate, and we want people to kind of hear the vibe in the room and all that sort of thing. So we have a Sonos system that plays pretty music throughout, but it's not going to be loud or anything like that. Like there's some restaurants you go to, the music is so loud.
Oh god damn, I couldn't hear you from here across the
table.
Yeah.
So it's we're just focused right now on the best possible food delivery, the best possible customer experience. We don't have servers, there's no waiters or waitresses. You basically come in and you order at a counter. Right when you get in,
you talk to somebody at the counter.
You figure out your order straight away. But once you order, you sit down in the dining room and you don't have to think about money anymore. You don't have to think about anything. Food's just brought to you.
Okay. Right.
And it's just really about, prioritizing the customer, the guest, giving them the best possible food, putting all of the labor into the kitchen staff and not having some server standing around looking at their phone.
Right, yeah.
Because that's, servers are the hardest people to hire and to retain, because nobody's life aspiration is to be a server.
Right.
So they're just there to have a job, and it's hard to get them to care. So, at least in a casual restaurant, I'm sure there's a lot of fine dining places that they make enough money to sustain themselves.
Right.
But
you gotta have a menu like in My Cousin Vinny.
Yeah, breakfast, lunch, dinner. But if you read Yelp reviews, one of my favorite hobbies is reading Yelp reviews.
Wow. Are you that bored, dude? Or?
Well, no. Like when you're trying to open a restaurant, you want to
point,
read what everybody's pain points are.
When we travel, because we bounce around a lot, we like going on adventures, and the first thing we do, hey, let's grab something to eat. My wife jumps right on Yelp.
Yeah.
Boop.
Yep. But like if you read the Yelp reviews, nearly every determinant of a guest's experience is how they deal with the server, or like what the server does, or the server said this, or they didn't bring this, or they got the order wrong, or I complained to the server and they didn't. Yeah. So if you eliminate that pain point, if you have them go direct to the kitchen, which essentially is what the host is, they're basically ordering the host is putting it in, and the ticket's printing in the kitchen straight away. There's no opportunity to be misunderstood. If they said, I want this gluten-free, it gets rung in gluten-free right out of the gate. Not like, you ever have these servers where they like, so what do you have? And they 4 people order and they don't write one thing down. Right. They just like, I'm going to impress you with my memory. I don't want you to impress me with memory. Just write it down. Like, I just want it to be right. I don't care if you're that good. You're in Mensa. I don't give a crap. Like, freaking write it down. So this is like, there's going to be no chance for the order to get messed up because you're ordering it right there. They're reading it back to you right there. Cool, and then it's going into the system straight away. And then you just sit down and then the food just comes out. And there's a bunch of restaurants that I really, really like that work this way. And it's always seamless when I go in those places. They're not in New Jersey. They're in like California.
Yeah,
but,
sure.
But you don't have to compromise on the quality of the food just because you have a counter. But what you do need to do is deliver on the promise of good food. And that's really where...
Well, the thing too is, like, if you're eliminating the pain point of the wait staff, right? The food... If you're concentrated on the food, how it gets delivered. Yeah. Now, if it's delivered directly to you from the guy cooking it or the lady cooking it, then you're good. Yeah. You should be.
Well, you should be. And like the other thing is, the business structure is such, like if you pay people a good wage, because in New Jersey you can pay a server like $2.65 an hour and plus tips, right?
Yeah.
But then you think like, well, they're going to give more attention to the big table because that's going to be a bigger check, and they're not going to pay attention to me. So we've basically leveled the playing field. All of our staff is making a really good hourly wage. And then, there's
tips are appreciated.
Well, there's no tip. No, there's no tipping. Okay. So whatever you order, tax and service is included in the price. So every item on the menu is rounded up to an even dollar number. And it includes tax and service. So the thing is, like, if a grass-fed cheeseburger with bacon is $15, it's $15. So if you come in with a 20, you get $5 back. There's no... it's 16.08. Here's 92 cents back. It's like, again, it's all about speed, transactional speed,
right, and experience.
And experience, yeah. Yep. So the thing is, like, you could come in, you know what you're going to pay, you know what you're going to get. You don't have to fuss around with, weird change or how much do I tip? The bill's $23.15. How much is the tip? And then people aren't giving you different service because you have a bigger order or a smaller order. Right. Everybody's getting the same service.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's a good way to look at it.
So again, but thinking about those things and doing the research and understanding what bothers people in restaurant environments. I think that was the reason why we took so long, because nowadays almost every fast casual restaurant has a point of sale terminal that's like an iPad, and this is one of my least favorite things. Is like
flip it over.
They swing it around and it says like tip, right? And it's just like 15%, 18%, 20%, no tip. And meanwhile, you got somebody breathing down your back and you want to hit no tip because you just ordered a muffin to go and I don't need to be tipping 20% on a $4 muffin that I'm like getting to go. But the person's looking at you and you're like, man, if I hit no tip, they're going to think I'm a cheap bastard. So then you feel like peer pressured into tip. Like that whole transaction doesn't even need to happen, you know?
Well, they're giving you shit about your drawing, dude.
Yeah,
Same scenario. The kid with the drawing. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So you feel pressured to like put a tip, and you're just like looking at the person. And you're like, they probably are going to go to college and need money. I better tip them. Like, no, this is their job. They're supposed to be nice to you. Like they didn't.
And if they're not, no, I survived on tips for a long time.
Sure.
Back in the day, like a lot of people.
Yeah.
I'm a huge tipper.
Sure.
But it has to depend on your service.
Listen, nothing's stopping you from leaving a tip if you experience something you want to tip for. Absolutely. Yeah. But nobody should feel compelled to tip in a casual environment, right? So the thing is, if you're that person working at Panera and you're relying on tips to make your rent payment, like that's a bad decision. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that I'm just saying nobody should really feel like the person at Panera should not be hitting me up for a tip because I paid with a credit card. Because if you pay with cash, there's no opportunity for them to ask you for a tip. If they say $11.52 and you hand them a 20, they give you change, right? Mm-hmm. But if you pay with a credit card, all of a sudden there's this whole tip ritual.
Well, speaking of tip ritual, back in the bar business, I'm just going to throw numbers out. You can insert whatever. But a beer, you could easily charge $1.50, right? For the beer.
Sure.
But if I charge you $1.50 and you gave me that'd be, let me think of this better. You're going to give me 50 cents back. And be like, okay, that's good enough tip.
Right.
No, I'm going to charge you $1.75.
Right.
So now you feel impelled to give me more than a quarter.
Yeah.
So now I just got $1.25 from you.
Right.
Instead of 50 cents.
Sure.
You know?
No, I mean, you're right, but we're at a point in society where the technology handles the transaction, like Uber or Lyft.
Well,
right?
Well, how about now? Like, say you go buy something we'll just use 7-Eleven for an example.
Sure.
Right? And you buy something for $10.18, and you hand that guy a 20 with 25 cents and a quarter.
Yeah.
Blows his fucking mind, dude.
That's
He's
fast
like,
math, man. Nobody can do fast math.
And he kind of like looks at you, and you're like, yeah, I just don't want $9 and a bunch of
I'll
change,
give you one
dude.
better. Like, the thing is like $7.86, and then you hand them like $10.11 because you want to get like two and a quarter back.
Yeah. Oh my god.
They're like their mind. You could see smoke coming out of their ears. They're like, why did you give me 11 cents? I'm giving you 14 cents back, and you'd be like, well, 11 plus 14 is 25. Give me a quarter back. It's just like it's just insane what happens.
That's
to
awesome.
see
It's
those
Common
people.
Core math, dude. It ruined everything.
Nobody needs to do math. And again, that's a big misconception. It's just like, well, we don't need to learn history. We could just Google everything. Like, you need to learn history.
Now, going back, I was going to bring this up earlier.
Yeah.
When Val and I, my wife, went on our honeymoon.
Yeah.
We took the Queen Mary 2 cruise ship back from England.
Oh, nice.
Well, no cell service, right?
Right.
So
unless you pay for it, right?
Oh God, and it was crazy expensive.
$50 a minute or something.
It was crazy, like $600 a day or some bullshit.
Yeah.
And so obviously you meet people.
Yeah.
Because my wife and I are both social people, so we end up talking with people and stuff like that. We met this really nice couple from England.
Right.
And of course, we end up at the bar, and I found out the next day because let me buy you a Guinness. Okay,
right.
I'll buy you a Guinness. All right. And you went back and forth. 13 Guinnesses later.
Right.
But the thing is, we come up with something, and that's why I don't Google anything on this podcast.
Right.
Let's talk about it.
Sure.
I don't want you to look it up.
Right.
No, we're going to sit here and try to figure it out without it.
Sure.
Right. So
it's more fun that way.
Yeah, on the cruise ship.
Yeah.
We'd bring something up. Well, I don't know about that. What do you know about that? Nothing. Okay. Well, then this, and this, and you go down so many rabbit holes. It's a great time.
Yeah.
And it turns into
there was a ton
conversation.
of stuff that my dad told me that was completely fake that I never had any way to look it up. And then you get older and you're like, I wonder if that,
Yeah, then
I'm
you
like,
Google
wait a
it.
minute, Dad, that city doesn't exist. How could you have been in that city? Well, it was near Detroit. I don't know the exact name of it. It's like, well, for years I thought this city was like where you went. It doesn't even exist.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah. So now, but nobody likes to be proved wrong anyways.
Yeah,
That's not the point of friendship,
Yeah, but that's good conversation.
It's good conversation, but it was almost more fun when you couldn't look it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because then you could imagine stuff that this happened or that
and
happened.
talk about it's close to Detroit.
Yeah, the city right around Detroit, and then the name of it, and like, wait a minute, there's no city called.
You could easily do that with New Jersey, because if you told somebody you're from Hohoke or whatever,
Hohokus,
they'd be like, okay, yeah.
But I mean, seriously, like I think per acre or per area, geographic area, I feel like New Jersey has the most cities per density.
County or not? Is it city or county?
Cities, man. Just there's hundreds of cities you never heard of in New Jersey. Every day I'm like, where the heck is that? You know? I mean, it was only a few years ago I heard there was this place called Little Egg Harbor.
What?
It's
in New Jersey?
Yeah, it's down by Atlantic City. Little Egg Harbor.
I was just looking now.
Yeah. So it's just like weird names.
Well, see, I just learned as soon as I moved to Jersey, somebody's like, go to Little Egg Harbor. I'm like, okay. They're like, you know how to get there? Siri does.
Yeah.
And I just became a slave to the blue line around here.
Oh, yeah.
But
here's the thing. You think like New Jersey is a small state, right? Like you can get from right here to Pennsylvania in an hour.
No,
you can get from here to New York.
No,
if you go from here to Cape May, that's 3 hours.
Yeah. Well, with my job, I'm on the road all day, right?
Yeah.
So I'll be like, all right, I need to get over here, and I'll Google it. It's 1.5 miles, and it'll say 1.5 miles. I'm like, sweet.
Yeah.
And I'll hit go. 33 minutes it'll take me to go. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Might as well be in Manhattan,
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's
no,
all good.
There's all these weird little places that you just never even heard about. And you know, did you ever watch The Sopranos when it was on?
Fuck yeah, dude.
I mean, they would go
Every time I watch anything now on HBO,
yeah,
when the little fuzzy thing comes on HBO,
Yeah.
I automatically start singing the little
Sopranos. Yeah, woke
Sopranos.
up this morning, got myself a gun. Yeah, but like, you know, they did this episode in the Pine Barrens, and I'm like,
Oh yeah,
where the hell are the Pine Barrens?
we camped down there last year.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, these are not things you think of when you think of New Jersey, you know?
Yeah.
And I used to live in Bloomfield, not far from here, and they filmed a lot of stuff in Belleville, Bloomfield, you know?
Right here, right here, not too far is the ice cream shop where.
In Bloomfield.
the
Holstein's, I think it's called.
Is that what? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the
Right
last
on Broad
episode
Street.
or whatever?
Yep, right on
Yeah.
Broad Street.
That was a crazy.
There's a
ending,
good Greek
wasn't it?
restaurant over there. Stamina. You been over there?
Stamina.
Stamina, right next to the
I have to
ice
ask the
cream
wife-
place.
I have to ask the wife about that.
Really good.
Good.
Really good. I mean, it used to be when I lived here, but I think it's still there.
How long ago did you live here?
Moved out in 2010, so 9 years
bad.
ago. Oh, geez, 9 years. Gosh.
Damn, dude. Getting
Time
old,
flies,
yeah.
man.
It's relevant. Time's relevant, right?
Time's relevant, yeah. I mean, it feels not that long ago, but I guess it was 9 years ago.
You know, I like watching like Animal Planet and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking about what time is, how animals look at it.
Right.
And they were showing a mouse run around in the grass and then an elephant and how
Right.
time is different.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
No,
kinda
it's again relativity, right?
Yeah. I like the stove and the hot woman.
Yeah. It's
That
like
actually
if-
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Right?
if you touch a stove for a second, it feels like an hour, and if you sit next to a pretty girl for an hour, it feels like a second
minute,
or
yeah.
something. You know.
Huh.
Yeah.
Cool.
So anyway, yeah, Einstein, deep thinker.
Oh, jeez. I'd rather go with The Rock, but we'll leave it at that.
Who's your
dude-
second choice
The
after The Rock? Who'd be your second choice?
my 80-year-old self.
Your 80-year-old self.
Yep.
But that you couldn't be two people at the same time.
Yeah, two things can't occupy the same space, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Well, we're sitting next to each other on the bench. We're not actually.
Yeah,
it's not like Time Cop.
But there's
Remember
only
Claude-
but there's only one, Rock and one Einstein. There's not two Einsteins at different ages,
I don't know. Could be.
I don't know.
That's a whole other conversation.
This is like the latest Avengers movie where they had. Did you see it?
Oh yeah, where they died and they all came back and.
Well, no,
all
but
that shit.
they found a way to like jump through the quantum realm to get
Yeah.
to different periods in time.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
there was two
yeah.
of them in the same spaces at some point.
Same time, yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's
it-
not a spoiler, by the way. It doesn't.
Yeah.
Not key to the.
What's That's an old Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, Time Cop.
Jean-Claude. I can't even tell you any movies he was in.
Yeah, I was a big fan.
Yeah.
Well,
That was like the era of Steven Seagal and Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Steven Seagal.
What a
jeez.
weird guy that guy is. now.
Yeah, I heard he's just batshit crazy.
He's a good guitar player, though.
Is he
I've heard.
really?
Yeah.
I wouldn't even put him in that.
Yeah, I think he plays guitar. I've seen a couple things.
And I was told that he's legitimate Aikido.
Yeah.
Aikido, right?
Yeah, the martial artist.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what all his movies were about.
Yeah,
He'd be
where you
beating
throw
somebody
people
up.
around.
Yeah.
You don't actually you can hit them, but it's technically just tossing them around.
Yeah, I mean, he was a pretty successful actor, movie star, whatever. But I think he's gone off the deep end or something.
I think a lot of them guys do.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
tough being
yeah.
an international symbol, I guess.
Yeah,
You would know.
Oh, well, I was going to say I handle it pretty good.
Yeah. You would know.
All right, dude. Well, thanks for coming over, man.
Yeah, this is a blast. Yeah. Really enjoyed it, and it's always good to sit down. And I'll keep you posted on everything going on.
Yeah, the restaurant would be great, and I got to get that picture. I think that picture looked good up there.
I'll
dude.
hook you up, man. I'll
right.
order it tomorrow for you.
right.
Don't worry.
Cool.
We'll get the photo lab to send it out.
right.
I got your address now, so
Yeah, I was going to say now you know where I live.
now I know where you live. Perfect.
Thanks, dude.
All right, man.
I hope you enjoyed listening to that as much as I did having Kraig at the table. Don't forget to check out all the cool things he's got going on at PoconoModern.com. The link will be in the show notes. And of course, Live Rishi for some amazing CBD product. You want to come on, have some conversation, tell jokes, talk about whatever the fuck we want to talk about? Let me know. You can contact me best way, website, waltzkitchentable.com. Instagram, WKTpodcast.com. Instagram. Facebook, Waltz Kitchen Table. So let me know. And really appreciate all the support I've been getting lately, and I got a lot of fun and exciting stuff coming up. So much love.